elements, the elements, and then they use that tree to travel, and then eventually go up into to the ether, the atmosphere.
That is fascinating, and I like that idea. And it kind of ties into, old stories and legends of both like the gods, the demigods, but also like magic and like sorcery and stuff like that as well.
Because what I'm doing is I'm filming a lot of these things, and if you pay attention to this or go back and watch the video of Final Thought in images in the past 12 months, because what I did from 2020 until May of 2023, when I had my last what we would call Sasquatch or Bigfoot filmed, right? I filmed it, and I don't know if you were seeing that while you were trying to jump on board, but I was showing the images of it. Is that like this one right here? If you pay attention, this is like an arm coming out. It has hands and it's holding like something that looks like rocks, and then you can see the entity popping out of the tree. Our hands constantly popping out. I know it sounds bizarre. It sounds good. Listen, I have a science background too, and it wasn't until 2017 when I actually had my first encounter with Sasquatch. You would never have convinced me in a million years that any of this shit is true, right? But since my journey and all that, I'm like, these things are popping up, and I'm filming this stuff, and it's not pareidolia, folks. This is not pareidolia. All you have to do is go look up what pareidolia is, and this
It's
is
definitely not. And it's I kind of feel and resonate with the idea more so that what you've captured might, well, that one looks more Sasquatch like. And
and it's
there's
actually
multiple different, both that there's multiple different like species of these different hominid like great ape type things, but
right.
all in parallel with that, and that earlier you were mentioning like some of the indigenous legends and stories and stuff, and that there's also such things as like the jinn or the
All cultures
but
have
more
them.
so in North American. What is it called? There's the skinwalkers, but there's also not just shapeshifter beings, but
There's the Wendigo. There's the
Windigo. There we
well.
go.
By the
Something
way,
more like Windigo, like.
I filmed it. I filmed one if you could find it. Then there it is. Let's see if we get to it. There it is. So this right here, you see, this is the hand, this is the elbow, this is the hand with his claws. There's his uh, arm, and there's the horned, or like the deer horns, and it's peeking around that tree. Can you see it? Can you see
Oh
the?
yeah, I'm seeing exactly what you're describing, the
So,
face and all.
but the thing is, uh, BurnEye, there you can't see them 99.99% of the time with your naked eye. And for
Well,
some
they
reason, with the
can,
digital cameras that we
but
have now, we can.
here's the thing: they're not within the normal human visible light spectrum. But that's why some people on these hallucinogens, or if you're sleep deprived, or just some people are, well, everybody I believe is able to, but like you just train yourself and like as an adept, and practice makes perfect, and eventually you can see more things. But to go back just to the basic aspect of both psychedelics and stimulants, that you'll see people's eyes dilate
Yes.
huge or go into little pins, and what that actually is doing is letting larger or smaller wavelengths of light into your pupils, and thus changing the uh, physical spectrum size of light that you're seeing. So theoretically, you would be seeing in more of the ultraviolet as well as the infrared spectrums and dimensions, and that we have all of these legends of both like demons and stuff in the infrared, as well as that the aura and potentially angels out of ultraviolet. And then in physics, Jack Sarfati's been talking specifically about this red-blue shift that happens when going into this warp field and time dilation, all sorts of crazy stuff, but real science and physics, and it has to do with going into these different spectrums of light.
Right. And so, there's this. So instead of calling these things demons and angels, all that, maybe we need to just pull back a little bit and maybe put the theological thing to the side. Now, anybody spent any time paying attention to how we are controlled. Obviously, religion is part of that. The priestcraft of yesterday and today, they're part of their job, whether they are conscious about it or not, is to kind of help control the narrative. Now, one of these things are, this is what I'm, the ecology of, we want, for lack of a better placeholder, the spirit realm. Okay. But really, if we're talking about maybe the plasmic realm, if it's true that the universe is 99% plasma, maybe thanks to the new technology we're having, we're starting to pierce through the veil that they talk about, and that concerning plasma. What if if the physical realm, the flesh and blood that we live in, where there's millions of different species of animals of all sorts and sizes, why can it also be happening on in a different plane, for lack of a better word, existing as well, all around us?
It does. You're bang on with all of that, and you're describing how this multiverse actually functions and exists, and it's undeniable that there is this spiritual dimension side of our reality, that there's multiple dimensions within this universe and reality, and that because of that fact, there has to be ways of interaction and explanation of these trans-dimensional beings, life forms, and experiences.
And so, maybe the problem is that we've been poisoned by theology a little bit too much, and we're labeling these good and bad, good and evil, right? Demons and angels. And maybe
that could also, be a parallel part of it. I don't necessarily.
Well, my reason I bring that up is,
it's that it's not all of that, and that it's more likely other things. 100%.
Well, we look at history, right? How many times have people in the past heard of such creatures that in the cryptozoology, whatever it may be, elephants or whatever it may be, you can think of thousands of them, and which people first hear about, and the first thing they think of are monsters or the demons, right? Only to find out later that they're just another critter, right? They're just another animal. And what I'm arguing is that what if, okay, now if you look at like plasma, I don't know if you saw the video in which they had like the leaf, the Elizabeth, not the what do they call that? What does they call that in plasma when you see the electrical discharge or whatever it is around the outside, or you put your hands on it and you can see the aura, is that it? But it has like this like static electricity discharge, right? Is that what you call it?
Like a plasma arc, electrical arc out.
Yeah, but if you're
talking about the Kirlian frequency photography and stuff.
You're the science dude, man. I'm just a dude that found out the Bigfoot's real. That's what I mean. I'm not. I do have a background in science, but I soon abandoned that a long time ago for other things. But yeah, overlapping frequency, static, yes, on the screen. There you go. That's the same thing. You touch you touch the the old television or your monitor and you get that static. What is that called? Is that just called static?
Static, yeah.
Well, the same thing is emitting a lot of times from these things that we call spirits. And what if what's happened is that because of our ignorance and because of the indoctrination that we were told that these things are demons, but really all they are is other entities, no more different than the squirrel running across your front yard or the rabbit or the sparrows flying in the air. You know what I mean? But
I see what you're saying. Yeah, quite.
You know what I mean? And
quite
so
probable.
Well, because one of the things I'm thinking is I've had this experience too with these encounters where you have this feeling of dread and fear in which the hair of your neck stands up, right? just like static electricity. And what if it's been just misinterpreted through theology and mind manipulation, right? For whatever reasons, maybe because they really did believe it in the first place, but they were wrong. That what we're dealing with a lot of times is people are feeling this static electricity when these
I heard you mention that the first time before I had joined, and in some instances, you could quite well be right, especially in with ball lightning, like the ball lightning or the plasma orbs or whatnot, 100%. But for my own personal experience, when it was what you're describing as the possible Thunderbird experience that I had, I'm leaning more towards, it seemed like a potential like pterodactyl, petrodactyl, or like dragon essentially, or just giant bats. But it was in the middle of the night for one. But it was like I just had that feeling like I was watched, and then like the hair went up. But it's like it's instinctual reflexes of you're
sure,
being hunted, your life is in danger, you are prey, and you're going into that fight or flight moment. And it's like because you're being, it's instinctual pump biological chemistry full of what the heck is it? Adrenaline, because you have to fight or flight for your life because you're literally being hunted or your life is in danger. And I guess this is the first cryptid story that we'll get into.
yeah, let's do it. Let's talk about this thing that you feel is a Thunderbird, man.
And maybe it potentially could be the Thunderbird. It was so
Absolutely.
damp and it was dark that I couldn't see. Why I lean towards reptile or mammal over bird, modern day bird, being that it was the middle of the night, and more usually there aren't much hunting. Birds seem to be like daytime hunters, and it seemed like it, from the way the sound it was making coming off of it, flying, soaring above, and then just like how it glistened and like moved when it turned and dove away, that the brief like glances I got, it didn't look like feathers. It looked more like of like a skin type wing sort of thing. But that being said, it was at least like 600 feet, 1,000 feet above me, if not more. When it was literally, I checked, it was so weird, 3:33 in the morning a.m. When this happened. I had gone outside for a cigarette at my friend's place in Drumheller, Alberta. He lives right in the downtown valley part, but on the edge of town.
No, so on the edge of town, what is it like? Was there a lot of trees? Was it
So
plains?
it's actually it's a like a river valley, Badlands Valley, and that the edge is just giant, like almost like cliff, but just huge steep incline of.
You said riverbed. Was there water running during the time?
Yeah, so there's a creek, river, the river, but that it's like in a floodplain essentially. So like the river is probably a good mile, I'd say, from his house, from the edge, sort of thing. Maybe half mile, but.
Well, the reason I bring that up is that a lot of times sightings happen around running water. So
Yeah,
bodies of water.
exactly. So what I suspect and feel was the case was this thing was night flying through like the river valley hunting, and that like this was a regular thing, and it probably hunts like cats, dogs, whatever, huge, anything, whatever it was. Like this thing was huge. It was a full moon. It blocked out the moon, and I had this laser pointer like this on me, and I was able to like get it out and actually like hit the animal flying above, like peg it with this laser, and had it on it for like least a second or two before like it noticed, and like just like I feel like I saw its head move, so I feel like it focused in and like saw me sort of thing, and like just dove off, and like it was making the sound of like um something ripping by, like just like roaring, not an engine, but just like the speed of something moving fast through the air
Through the air. Okay.
that you could hear. And that it made that sound when it dove. Like you couldn't hear it when it was flying. When it first went over and was flying, it was like silent. And then it's like it crossed through the moon, like it was full moon, so like blocked out the light of the moon. That's how I noticed it, and I was like, "Holy heck!" And then got the laser pointer out, pegged it, and then it freaking dove. And yeah, my girlfriend Amber, it was my friend Warren's house. Both of them came out and were like, "Brian, what the hell's wrong with you? Like, what? Like, if you ask anyone wants to follow up and ask them, they will testify that this experience happened and that something had startled the fuck out of me, and that I felt like I was prey." And Drumheller, Alberta is, I guess, world famous for the Royal Tyrrell Dinosaur Museum and all of the fossils and supposed dinosaur skeletons that have come out of that area, as well as in the Badlands of that further up, just outside of Drumheller, there's several old mine shafts and old coal mines, stuff like that, but potential habitats for such animals still existing. It will stick with me for the rest of my life, believe me or not. Or
No. I mean, there's plenty of traditions. There's plenty of traditions out there.
General, right? It's it freaking happened. I just trying to make sense of whatever the hell it was, but whatever it was huge. It was flying. I was able to get my laser pointer on it, and it was hunting. It felt like it was hunting.
It felt like it was hunting. Okay, so you said the swishing sound. You ever heard the sound of like a large prey animal or bird, like an owl or an eagle, or you ever heard like a hawk when it swoops down and catches something in the midair? You ever heard that? I wonder if this is something similar, but much larger.
Yeah, like that, but like way larger and way further away that it had made this. It was just it kind of like almost like thunder, like echoed through the valley as it went down. Like it was.
Well, what's interesting about that? So you heard that, and it's rather loud. And I'm not saying you didn't hear it, because listen, I've had experiences. I know plenty of people, and they'll literally, one person will literally see something that clearly looks like a Sasquatch, and the person next to them won't see anything. Or another occasion, two of them will hear something, but the third person won't hear it. It's how this is how it works. Now, maybe it has something to do with the biology, the hardware in that person's body. You know what I mean? Maybe they're just not equipped to hear that, or whatever. But this part of the Fortean journey, right? It doesn't add up. It doesn't work quite the way we're familiar or used to. When it comes to scientific method, something that's it can be reproducible and be proven over again, and then multiple witnesses can see it. Sometimes there's multiple witnesses, and sometimes there's not. So I'm not saying you didn't have the encounter. So I'm just trying to understand it, because the question is, Bernie, you heard it. It sounded like it was quite loud.
I'm pretty sure that was the sound that had brought out Amber and Warren, my girlfriend and friend, to see what was going on and check, or like where they encountered me and like check on me, I guess, or check on the situation.
Right. So somebody else heard it, and so we got some confirmation. So other people heard something, and you saw something. And can you at all remember any more detail of this? Because did it seem like was it flying
It
What was
was
it floating?
soaring, gliding. Like it wasn't flapping its wings. It was just like high up, like cruising, like just going over. Like I said, it was definitely hunting. Like it was an animal of prey soaring over at night, looking down for something to snack on.
Well, that's interesting. But think about it, how big do you think it was? I know it's hard to guess from that
Right?
distance
I'm
from
trying
there,
to
but do you think it was more than?
probably 20 to 30 foot wingspan, like potentially, like you on maybe even on either side. Like it was freaking huge, and like I said, it was at least like 1,000, if not three. I'd say between 2 to 3,000 feet up. I suspect, from my, and I'm saying these numbers from like my own skydiving at 6,000 feet, and then like going through and then just judging. But who knows? I could be way off. But it
It's very
seems
difficult to judge. So the thing is, so let's say it is 20, 30 feet wingspan. So that's a massive creature, right? um, and if it's hunting for what? And what is it possibly feeding on? You know what I mean? Have you asked that question?
like that's why I suspect like it was going through the town looking for dogs, people, like who knows, maybe stay like hunts on homeless people, or like drunk people going home from the bar. Who knows? I don't know. I just felt like I was being hunted. More likely, probably pets, or maybe even uh I believe there's like ranches, farms, like right on the outskirts of that town. Who knows? But uh,
Right.
but
So now I'm going to ask the question: is there a possibility that it wasn't flesh and blood at all?
I I really feel like, from what I saw, I encountered, I'm like believe wholeheartedly of my existence. It was like a biological animal. I really don't think, but who knows?
Hmm.
Maybe it was a drone, like a government thing, but I really don't think so. And like it's like how it dove and moved. I just don't know. But yeah, maybe, right? Could it have materialized and been like some potential plasma being? I don't know.
Yes, so, that's the fair answer, right? The fair answer, and this is what I'm discovering with this research, is that the most honest answer in all this is I don't know.
Yeah, I truly don't know. But
You
that
know,
fact you bring that up, like the 3:33 a.m. Supposedly that's like when this electric charge of like the ley lines like goes around or something. The Earth, of the telluric current or something like that. I believe that that maybe it could have been riding this wave of energy and been like a dragon or plasma thing or something. Who knows? This is crazy speculation. I don't know, but possibility.
yeah. I mean, by the way, folks, John A. Keel, the author and researcher who had his own encounter with abominable soul man and out there in the region of Japan in that area. And, he has some great insights, and I recommend reading some of his books. Which, by the way, did you get that message about your top 5 books?
Oh yes.
What are your top 5 books? This always is a good indicator of where a person is at. So, and it's not to judge or anything. That is just know where you're at. Because
Just
God knows if you heard my top 5 books, you go,
got
well,
to do more reading. But number
yeah,
one
that's what I learned from my top 5 books.
the Lord of the Rings, followed by The Hobbit being number two. I don't know, or does that count as four? But no, that will say that's two. Number three, and it's like, God, I think I still have like 4 or 5 chapters left in this thing that I need to finish off. But Stephen Wolfram's A New Type of Science. We're gonna say that is my number third. It's
What's number third again?
A New Type of Science by Stephen Wolfram.
A new
But
type.
it's a painful analog style of read, but it's brilliant, and it shaped a lot of my understanding of the physical universe, just as well as like numbers, geometry, cycles, and systems.
Interesting. Cool.
Number 4, we're going to go with the Dinotopia series.
Dinotopia.
Yeah, and number 5, just flashback from full childhood, and choose the Bernstein Bears because we'll add in a little bit of what is that? Why can't the heck I think of his name? The Mandela effect. There we go. Because it's not Stain, it's Steen.
So yeah, so definitely. I mean, I had my own experience with the quote unquote Mandela effect. It would be part of my book, and I also, yes, the bewitching hour between 3 and 4 a.m. is a lot of bizarre things. It happens. In fact, it'll be part of my book as well, in which my second encounter with this Bigfoot actually was in my backyard, and 3 days later, my neighbor upstairs, who's coming back, he's in the Air Force Reserves, and he saw something walking in their yard, and he was very tall. He said he described it as a very, very tall, big dude, all in black with a black hoodie. And he couldn't accept the fact that it might be something else, but it could have been actually that as well, because I filmed things that look like they're wearing black hoods. You know what I mean? I'm at this point in my journey and research, I do not choose to label them as this, that, or the other, because I actually don't know. You know what I mean? What they are, but there's a lot of, and a lot of people describe Sasquatch and Bigfoot as like a hooded, like a very big dude wearing a hoodie. So in fact, that's my first sighting was something very similar to that, but
could be multiple different species or entities or just beings that people are encountering, and all
now when you saw the bird, you're watching it, how long were you watching it for, Bo?
About probably 10 seconds in total between first seeing it, grabbing my laser pointer, tagging it, and it diving off out of sight.
So when you say diving off, did it just did it like disappear, or did you see
it like just dove, which then like made that crazy like sound of like going down, and like I saw it like just go out sort of thing. Like it was crazy. I just dove off and away.
Right. Well, it's not so. Listen, there's plenty of reports when it comes to say UFOs or Bigfoot, right? And we're talking about Bigfoot right now. So where you'll see it and it disappears. They'll see it and the footprints. They'll find footprints in the middle of nowhere. They just disappear out of nowhere, and there's like super far away from any kind of trees or anything for them to jump into a tree or anything like that. It just vanished. And so I'm just bringing it up. I mean, it's part of the Fortean journey. I mean, you can believe it or not, and it's not a matter. I mean, honestly, how I see things at this point, belief it's not worth much of anything. But you did have your encounter, right? And accept the fact that you had your encounter, because I had my own encounters. And so, but I also know that it's very hard to really pinpoint it or label these things accurately, because of all of our ignorance, our own ignorance, right? So, but it sounds fascinating. And, if it was out there and you were out there and it was hunting, why did it not go after you?
Well, like I said, like I felt like it started by like that feeling of you're being watched, then the hair going up like I'm prey and like being hunted and in danger, and then like notice like the light like go dark for a sec, so I looked up and saw this thing like going over the moon, and that's how I like seen it start going. And then that's when I pulled out the laser pointer and then got it. And then it's like, actually it was probably it wasn't a couple seconds, it was like half a second from the time that it was hit with this laser, that it just like dropped and just boom left, sort of thing, like dodged out, eked out.
Well, it's fascinating. I find that fascinating. For you to be willing to even admit that, the company that you have, I totally respect you on that. I do.
Right?
Because like, people are going to say you're batshit crazy for saying that, and I know better, and you know better. So,
and I encourage anybody that wants to pursue this further to reach out to my girlfriend and interview her individually, and I can.
I'll do it, and that's what I do, man. This is my thing. I'll talk to her about it. Absolutely.
Yeah, you should.
I'll talk to anybody about this stuff. I mean, even if
she can verify that, like, the story I just said right now is the exact same story, like what I told her in that moment, when right after it happened, and she was also there for the Sasquatch experience, and can give the same. Pretty much same experience that I'll describe with you on when I tell that coming up.
Absolutely. So it's good to have more than one witness, depending how it is, right? I think for nobody else, for yourself, right? For your own verification, or I don't know if it's verification, but at least you know that you're not alone in this experiment, this experience, and so that validifies it and solidifies a little bit more because you're sharing it with somebody. I tell you, the first time I saw the Sasquatch, and I'm not kidding, when he got 15 feet in front of my grill, I was standing next to the Crow Indian medicine. And it was by itself. There was more than one. So, and I know it was real. I know that the guy next to me knew it was real. I wasn't on any drugs. It was a bizarre circumstances or events. And, but I also understand if somebody says you're full of crap, I understand where they're coming from too, because I used to be that guy. Right?
Absolutely. Right. It's like an experience thing. It's just, yeah, you gotta experience yourself.
So, and then, let's bring up this once again, that feeling and of that, being prayed, or the hair raising up the back of your neck, and could there possibly been some kind of static discharge happening?
But I see in that experience, I don't think so. But
what if the subconscious in your mind is one thing, is you are associating these things as giant, predatory.
Actually, I'm not gonna say no, because due to this telluric current thing, the 3:33 in the morning, and that is like this electric charged moment of time that is documented that in science. So quite possibly. And shout out to Frankie, New West Reset. We're going to be my cryptid episode number 2. We still got to do Monster Bizarro book that Frankie gave me that we have to go over. And
what's the name of the book?
It's called Monstro Bizarro. And
never heard of it before.
It's Rue Morgue Magazines, an essential manual of mysterious monsters.
Huh. I wonder, it's probably influenced by Charles Fort and guys like John Keel. So I imagine there's Fortean Society and that kind of stuff. So, which is it's definitely worth anybody's time to look into. It's called the Book of the Damned. It's a collection, and don't get that mistaken about the Book of the Damned. It has nothing to do with religion. The damned are us who have these experiences, and the rest of us the rest of you throw us out, mock us, make fun of us, and that's the damned. We're the damned because we have these damned experiences, right?
True.
So let's try now.
I've been looking at all of these. These are all images that you filmed and taken, hey?
Yeah. This is the images I filmed between the summer of 2022 and well, it ended in was it March or May of this year? It was before that last, the image I showed of the last Sasquatch that I filmed, right? But I don't have that in there.
Word,
But
Mike.
there's multiple things. There's multiple things going on with the trees that I think that are being possibly mislabeled as demons and spirits and all that kind of stuff.
Well, because it could go and connect into like the lores and legends of like fairies, elves, and spirits that way,
Absolutely.
right?
Oh,
100%.
absolutely. I mean, we just think about, yeah, uh, elves and fairies, aliens, little people. When you start looking at these stories and their connections and what's the correlations, things that are similar, yeah, could they just be based on the time period in which these people saw these things? Either are called, maybe in the Middle Ages they would call them fairies, right? Or dwarfs or elves or whatever. Today, what do we call them? We call them aliens.
Yeah. All right. Or,
Right.
or like you're saying, demons and angels, right? Where it could be
Yeah.
just other spirits, entities, elves. Exactly. Mike, I'm just gonna run to the bathroom quick here, and I'll be back in 5 minutes if that's all right. So like play this, and I'll be watching.
Oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely. So while he's doing that, let me get out of this. So that was some images. If you want to see it, you can go to either of my channels. One is the 14 Digital Shaman, and then there's uh, the Lord of ORD. And people are asking what ORD means. That's Old Religion Dystopia. The reason why I chose that is because of my extensive research in the Bible and what the byproduct was. But that's for another story, another time. And then it's not something that I'm sure you guys came here to listen to. Now, but let's go back to those of most of you probably in this room at this point already know about BurnEye, but those who don't, it's a BurnEye, mine's third eye, ScienceGuy, and of course it'll be in the information box. That's one of his channels. And what's interesting about the censorship is, folks, you can tell when someone's actually being censored. You look at the number of subscribers compared to the number of videos. Now, the BurnEye, mine's third eye ScienceGuy, has 751 videos, and it's not even up to 3,000 subs. That's a dead giveaway that somebody's being manipulated, because regardless of whether you like this material or not, there are billions of people out there, and the odds of you, after you put 751 videos up and you only have that number. I mean, I know there's channels out there that only have 50 videos and have over 100,000 subs. The math doesn't work. So just keep that in mind. And then the other thing here is with his other channel, which has much more, getting close to the 9,000, or excuse me, 10,000 mark. And he has 895 videos, right? Now, whether you like every video or not, that's not the question. And whether you accept it, and there's always going to be people that are going to come and go. People are going to be dismayed or just, they're just not going to believe what you're doing, right? But that's a shitload of fucking video. Sorry for my language. And to have that many people, only that many subs, is a real red flag that someone's being censored. And how do I know that? Because I have firsthand experience with it. I've been doing this for 10 years, so. And of course, I don't try to do it like I used to. I'm not even, the numbers game, I'm not doing it at all. And I'm an older man, you know what I mean? I'm going to be 56 next year, so I'm not really interested in that kind of stuff. But when you're a younger guy, it makes a lot of sense, right? Especially if you had an opportunity to maybe generate some kind of income and your journey and your research to help you do it. Because it's a lot of work being a content creator. It's more than a full-time job. And the odds are you're not going to make anything out of it. So even with thousands of subs, because most people aren't like, I can't wait to give you any money. Most of us don't even have the money. So, but I just want you to think about that. And so if you guys who are new to BurnEye or BurnEye, go sub to his channel. He's got some interesting stuff. I'd love to talk to him more about some of this stuff. And I'm watching his journey. I'm just like, man, it looks so familiar. So familiar. It's almost like everyone has to go through this very similar journey in the process of coming closer to our reality, if you will, the world in which we really live in. I was talking about the 3 o'clock bewitching hour, and back to this whole thing about my neighbor. And it's a very bizarre experience that I had 6 years ago, in which it ended actually with my neighbor, a very straightforward, straight lace Air Force dude, right? Just retired, right? No nonsense, right? I mean, this is how he was thinking when he saw this. His response was to get back into his pickup truck and go chase him down and find out what it was that doing in our backyard, right? So as he turned around the corner, started presuming it, and as was going down the neighborhood there, the street, right, the side street, he said, I couldn't find it. It just disappeared. Now, he never claimed for 1 minute that it was Sasquatch. He just said it was a really tall dude, all dressed up in black with a black hoodie. That's what he said. Because his mind, he couldn't accept the idea that there could be something else going on in our neighborhood. At this point, when that happened, I already knew that in our town that we had what we call Sasquatch running around in it. Which, by the way, goes to another thing. We are told that these things are only supposed to be out in the virgin forest or out in the distance, out the west or, where it may be. But how many of you have ever thought in a million years that you would end up seeing something that looked like a Sasquatch in the middle of your town? Well, that's what happened to me. And I'm not alone with that. But most people keep that quiet. And I know an awful lot of these old time researchers, cryptid and Bigfoot researchers, and they know about these stories, and they have their own stories, and they keep their mouth shut about it. And the reason why that is because the politics that are going on when it comes to the Bigfoot community is atrocious. And no one has, it seems like if you start sharing the deeper truths of what's going on, you are become a giant threat to the little money machine, that's out there, right? You will not hear this kind of stuff in your average Bigfoot conference and where they sell books and all that. No, you can't talk about this stuff. Yet I know guys firsthand who are well established in the Bigfoot community who know about this high strangeness that's associated with Bigfoot. And then here's another thing. A lot of times when people see quote unquote Sasquatch or Bigfoot, that before, during, or not soon after, they start seeing lights in the sky, or they see things that we call UFOs, or maybe look like thunderbirds. And the question then arises, is this all mass hallucination? It cannot possibly be mass hallucination because these are individual things that are happening, or in groups, small groups. And, they're not people that have, been taking, hard drugs or anything like that. They're having these real experiences. So then the question is, what are they experiencing? How can it possibly be that something like a Sasquatch is massive, big? Just imagine the calorie intake that must be necessary to survive. And we don't find any evidence of them foraging, feeding. We have stories of them doing. We might see them ourselves doing it, but we don't see any signs or symptoms, or not symptoms, signs or any kind of effect or whatever, environmentally wise. Okay, let's talk about carcasses, animals. I don't care how clean of an eater you are, you're going to leave stuff behind. Bones, whatever, hair, whatever. None of it's left behind. And when things are left behind, now we got to talk about UFOs, alleged UFOs, in which you have the cattle mutilations and the other animal mutilations, right? And it makes no sense. It almost seems like human beings did it, or something that. By the way, we do have rich history of vampirism, especially in the oligarchs and the monarchs and the elite in places like Western Europe, in which they would bathe themselves. In fact, we got the one guy, which I forgot his name, who is a nephew or cousin of Pope something in the other, the sixth, who end up being actually, most people, their traditional image of Jesus is this guy, right? Anyways, his stories of him bathing in the blood of animals. And we have many of the oligarchs and throughout Europe who did that. They literally bathed in animal blood or human blood. This is something I'm not making up. And so then we look at these cattle mutilations and look at the animals are drained of all their blood, and that's it. So what the heck's going on? And where did these people get the idea that they could, make themselves look more youthful bathing in blood? It's part of the story. I cannot say it's the whole story, but it is part of the story. And it came to the same thing with all these other cryptids and all the different encounters and different experiences. I think it's really a mistake for us to dismiss this stuff as simply hallucinations or people's imagination, or there's something, you're not quite wired right. Maybe it's due to stress and lack of sleep and all that, and yet they're having these images and these visions. Well, there's more going on than that, because there's all sorts of people in all different walks of lives who are having these encounters or sightings, and they're not all universally the same. So now it's almost like we're experiencing some kind of light show or plasma like show where things are manifest for whatever reason. Is it just to screw with us? Maybe so. You don't know. Is it just to remind people that there's something greater going on in our reality than what we've been taught in the public school system and in the university and the colleges and in the workplaces and on the television? There's more going on than meets the eye, and that's the thing. And when it comes to this kind of research, if you're not willing to be open-minded and at least give the possibility that things are actually happening, at least give it that chance, you automatically you make these mental defenses, these constructs, and say, nope, it's not true. If it doesn't, if I don't see any bones, if I don't see it, a living specimen, I'm not going to believe it. Well, that's not the same thing. If you do see the bones and you do see the physical evidence, it's no longer a belief to begin with. You now know. So that argument is pretty lame. The fact of the matter is, we're dealing with something that's right now, we're just at our infancy when it's tying together the esoteric, the occult, and science with it, right? And I think instead of trying to dominate all different fields, trying to dominate each other or override each other, why don't we work together to figure this out? And just think the potential, whether it might be, we hear all the time about, BurnEye talks all the time with other people on his show on free energy, some kind of, whatever craft it may be, or how they go about their travel and all that. It could change everything if we would just open up our mind a little bit and stop compartmentalize everything and say, nope, either, if it doesn't fit our worldview, no way, Jose, right? Well, I disagree with that. I think that we should really try to be like, and listen, if you start reading some of these books, that ain't that old, 50 years ago, from John Keel or Ivan Sanderson and others. And, they all came to this very similar conclusion, and then something happened. The censorship happened is what happened. They were shut down. These voices were shut down. And it seems like there's certain groups out there who have an agenda, and that agenda is to keep you and I from talking about this in a more open dialogue. And what they want us to do is be put in the woo camp or the flesh and blood camp. Well, why do we have to be in any of those camps? Why can't we just, investigate this stuff if we have had encounters, put a little trust in ourselves? We're told constantly, and you guys are flying like machines tonight. That's awesome. Why can't we not be in any camp and just say, leave the possibility that there's something greater going on? Just imagine if we're even close to being right. Let's just say in the universe that there are sentient living beings made out of plasma of all different shapes and sizes. And we somehow get the technology and whatever's necessary to pierce into that and interact with that. And just imagine how, talk about rejuvenating all the hard sciences of, whether it's zoology, biology, physics, etc. You know what I mean? I don't think we should just throw it all out. I think North Street, we just say we have it all figured out. Because here's the thing, when it comes to Sasquatch, my own research, I know that people have seen it and they swear to God it was flesh and blood. And hey, listen, I'm not saying they didn't see what they didn't see. You know what I mean? They didn't see it. And that what they recognized, it seemed very, very physical. I know plenty of guys who have had experiences with them in which they say they were hunting and all of a sudden the gut pile is gone. Yeah, and they saw these things, right? And so they put the two together, right? But then when you look for the gut pile and you try to look for any kind of trail or anything, there is no trail. It's just like the gut pile just disappeared. Now, did it literally disappear like magic? Who knows? Maybe not. Maybe something more complicated is going on here. And we just have to leave it open for the possibility, right? Yeah, shape shifting. This is definitely a definite thing. Hey, listen, there's many of religious texts to talk about. We look at the Bible. And whether you believe it or not, it's the word of God and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't really matter to me. What it matters is that story about Ezekiel and how he describes the wheels within wheels, and then that entities that we assume to be angels were shape shifting. They had, the head of a man, a head of an ox, the head of an eagle, and the head of a lion, I believe it was, right? Is that what it is? In other words, it was shape shifting. It was changing. And he did the best he could to describe what he was seeing. What does that mean to be shape shifting? What is going on here when the high strangeness comes home to you when you're having these encounters? Say you start doing research and you go out in the field, right? And it happened to me and it happens to a lot of people. And we have this thing called the hitchhiker effect. And most people will assume that it has something to do with spirits. But that doesn't mean it has to be so. And what does it say that something else going on? And how did this hitchhiker effect happen? I know it happened to me, 2017, after my first up and close encounter when I was standing next to the Crow Indian man, and what transpired, I knew that thing was coming home, and it did 6 months later. And then I went through living hell for 3 days, and all sorts of bizarre things happened. Now, could part of it be to biochemically something going on with me? Sure, why not? You know what I mean? But I have multiple sclerosis thanks to the swine flu jab, so from 2009. So maybe someone had to do that. But the problem is, it affected my son, and my neighbor saw something as well. So it couldn't be just me, right? And there's something biochemical going on. And so it's easy to blame you than to say, okay, they're all something. It was frightening. It was terrifying. It was bizarre. But our ancestors talked about this, about the dark night of the soul. And that many of our ancestors, as young men and women, spent, something like 3 nights and days by themselves in a sacred place. Of course, the elders were watching them from distance, but they didn't know that. And they experienced things under the stress. under the fasting and the lack of water and all that kind of stuff. And they saw things like little people and Sasquatch and Thunderbirds and stuff like that. So why were they going through all that effort and time to have these experiences? And why did they believe in the fact that when they had the experiences that would like tell you what your future was and what kind of a man and woman were you going to be, right? You back, bro?
I am, and absolutely loving everything you have to say, and stoked that you've brought up both the hitchhiker effect and actually my next episode with Walter Bosley, we're going to be going into that in great detail, as he is also an experiencer of this hitchhiker effect, and just sitting back and loving hearing your own story and experience with it. And please do continue, as I find this extremely fascinating. And
Well, we're here for you, but I'll say a little bit when it comes to this hitchhiker effect. It's a lot of things I experienced in that 3 days. One of the things we talk about is Mandela effect. Now, I didn't see any changes in any lettering in books or anything like that, but I tell you one thing: the artwork that I cherish so much as an artist, and like you were, you're an artist. Bernie's an artist, by the way. Those who don't know who Bernie is, he's an artist. He's a great artist, and at least in my opinion. And a lot of those things that meant a lot to me. And I saw the paint morph and change. Some form of type of a Mandela effect. It's so severe that we're talking about how extreme it was. There was a drawing of mine that was pen and ink that took me almost 6 months to do. It was 60 by 40 inches, all pen and ink. I was so disturbed about what happened. I took all my artwork and the next week I threw it all in the garbage. And the irony is, within a half an hour, my neighbors drove by and took it all, picked it all up. I was like, shit, When I look back now, it was an extreme thing, and I wish I didn't do it. But it's what I'm saying is, it was so extreme, so severe what I experienced, and I didn't know how to handle it. There was no guide for this. There was no shaman to tell me what's going on. My Christian friends didn't have a clue what to deal with it. You know what I mean? What they recommended didn't make it any better. And by the way, my experience is not alone. And I'm not knocking anybody, all right? You do what you got to do and believe what you got to believe. But I'm just saying this is my experience. And so
you're sharing it. I respect it and appreciate it. And it's just fascinating how many parallels there are with each of your own, but many other people that have had these and continue to have the hitchhiker effect and experiences. And
yeah. And I understand if you haven't had these experiences, you're like, dude, you sound crazy.
Well, it is crazy.
6 years ago, I'd be saying the same
don't
thing.
Wish it on anybody, right?
No,
makes sense, right?
But here's the thing. I think part of the problem is with our society and culture, and it's going back to the past and our ancestors and these different rites and rituals that we call today the dark night of the soul, in which children and young adults were trained to have this experience, to understand what's going on. That's been taken away from us. That's one of the consequences of our modern physical science world that we live in. And there's the good and bad in that as well. And so I just want to go back to this whole idea about if somehow we can start to tie these together again, that I have the perception, and many others do, that at one time in our distant past, science, first of all, the occult, science, and what was the other one? I can't forget. But anyways, they're all tied together, right, Bernie? They're all tied together. You're doing
exactly. Alchemy.
Yes.
And alchemy and astrology. And yes, absolutely, that they were making sense of the metaphysical, the spiritual side, just as much as the physical world around, and connecting the two. And you're absolutely right that the Western society, we're robbing it from ourselves, and we're creating this false paradigm reality that we try to live in, that's like, oh, it's YOLO, you only live once, then there's nothing, and there's no such things as like these ghost spirits or souls, yet alone your own immortal one, and that we've probably all been here before. And it's quite crazy in how we as a society peer pressure ourselves and trick ourselves to try to disbelieve our own experiences, and that you almost prefer to go looking for someone else to tell you that it's not real than try to deal with it yourself and just ignore its existence. But
Yes, and then part of the problem might be that we're grunting to people for advice who really don't know what they're talking about.
exactly, right? Like, don't you you should be going to someone that's experienced the same thing as you if you're seeking the trying to understand it and answers and make sense of it, as opposed to those that literally have no idea what you're talking about because, well, they haven't been through it.
No, or if they have, they've been, say, tainted a bit from their, say, theology, for one, the religious perspective, right? That, we assume that just because we read something out of a book from the past, that that's the end all be all, and that was all there was about, right? But if you look at all these different like theological texts and books, what was the gist of it? Not only to try poorly as they did to explain where we came from, why we're here, and where we're going, but also the supernatural thing that's going on around people, right? This super, what do you call it, supernatural or super normal or abnormal something, you know what I mean? That people have for consistently throughout generations and millennia have had similar shared experiences, and instead of working together to solve the mystery, we end up demonizing each other or the, the thing that the people were experiencing, right? And
Very
all
good.
sorts of tales are told, right? And then when you start looking into these tales, they don't hold up. I'm not talking about the negative side of things. I'm not saying that it's not doesn't negative doesn't happen, but a lot of times people, well, that's one. Listen, humanity, what makes us special in this creation is our imagination, and it's a two-edged sword. It can either be for great and for amazing things, or we can also use it for bad things. And also, our imagination can be used to twist ourselves up too, right? So we have to learn how to. Here's one of the things that's another problem in our modern day: the managing of our own imaginations properly. It's not been done. It's not being done. I know that the psychology and psychiatry is trying to attempt to do that, explain it, but they're not telling us how to manage properly our imagination. You know what I mean? And I think part of it, it's deeper question than that, and they're probably not even doing a good job. Because when I say managing, I'm not only talking about our own internal, because most of our life is in between our ears, right? Let's be honest, it's between our ears, and then there's ours, and then there's the collective, whether the immediate group, your family, friends, and then your community, and on it goes. And that imagination can either be used for amazing things or it can be used to do destructive things. And we all know this is not that brilliant. The problem is this what's important in all this is that we have not been learned to harness that properly. What happened? It's a good question to ask, and then go from there. What happened? Try to get an answer, and then how do we manage it? How do we rightly align ourselves again with what we call the creation? Anyways, let's talk about your Bigfoot thing, man, because I want to hear about this because this is far out. When you told the little bit that I heard, I'm like, this is a great story.
I'm going to need a couple minutes as I'm just trying to get a video from the same location of these plasma orb UFOs that were filmed by Craig Headleyman. It happened in Headley, BC this past summer. That we went out to visit him, and part of it being to see the location that he filmed these UFOs from. And then it was in his own backyard that I believe we experienced a couple of these Sasquatch. So
which
yeah,
is quite common. And I'll tell you, my first encounter, I think you might have heard it in the beginning, but I'll repeat it. My very first encounter with the Crow Indian medicine man a week later was the first time I ever had UFO. First time I ever seen a UFO. And it happens over and over again where people talk about if they see a Sasquatch or lights in the sky or something we call UFO, which I like what my friend Brown Dwarf calls it. He calls them unidentified floating objects instead of flying objects, because for most of the time that's what's actually we're witnessing, right? And then they just vanish, or they'll disappear in a streak. But it appears that they're just like, and here it comes to UFOs. It's just like cryptids and all that. Uh, they come in different shapes and sizes, and some look mechanical like, and some are freaking just lights or groups of lights. Some are orbs, some are it goes on and on. And so I think it's very dangerous when it comes to stuff to be really dogmatic about what it is, because it could be multiple things that we're dealing with here, right? And I know that it depends on which path you take. You've been hanging out with some hardcore physicists, and people are more interested in that side of things and the mechanical side of things, right? Is that a good way of saying it? But that doesn't mean it's the only way. And I know that they won't be interested in the lights. At the same token, those who maybe are not very scientifically oriented, they'll focus more on the orb thing or the spirit thing and neglect the scientific side of it. And I think this is a very bad idea in my book, from what I'm seeing, because I think we're doing it to ourselves. The best way for us to be controlled, and we all know this, is we're divide and conquer. We're dividing and conquer ourselves when it comes to this. We can blame the government all we want, but we, the boots on the ground researchers, need to start talking more honest about this stuff and talking at different angles and different perspectives. And I think we got it all figured out. But we can figure it out, just like every other thing that's ever been figured out. In the end of the day, was it the government or the church or the monarchs that figured this stuff out? No, it was we, the people, that figured it out. Right?
Exactly. And that's what we're just here trying to do, is figure out our own experiences and what's going on in this reality and world that we all share together.
Right. And here's the thing when it comes to like the hominids and the different forms and shapes and sizes, and what we all, that's one of the things I argue with my friends. And like Bigfoot, one of the things we talk a lot about is structures, tree structures, right? TP structures. I say, in fact, right where I'm sitting now, 350 yards due east to where I'm sitting right now, there's a tree structure and a ravine. That the trees, and some, if it was kids or whoever it were, they spent an awful amount of time building it. First of all, they had to find these amazingly straight tree trunks and strip all the branches off and make a T-tree structure, right? Like a pyramid. Yeah. Now, it's one of the things that I've been harping of my friends or my acquaintances in the Bigfoot communities. We keep on saying that the Bigfoot did, but none of us ever seen Bigfoot do it. How do we know it's Bigfoot doing it? We don't know that. And you know what I mean? And just because we have a sighting around that area, I get an image of one next to that tree structure. You can see it. It's an opening of a video that I've been using lately. I filmed last fall.
Sorry, Mike. Do you want to just play that? Do you mind actually playing that video quickly one last time, and then I'm gonna hook up my other computer quickly while you're doing that.
Which video do you want me to play?
The one you just mentioned with the tree structure, or do you want to do the show the one of the Sasquatch that you captured with the baby on, with the young one on it?
Got
so much great.
I got tons of images. I got to say, one of the secrets that I discovered, folks, and then started aiming my camera up and into the trees. Or most of the researchers, I've been looking down, looking for footprints and for tree structures and cliffs and all kind of stuff. I decided to start looking up, and I started filming a hell of a lot more stuff. So, to me, that says a lot, and the connection with the trees and this creation. I view the trees at this point as they're like the neurons of this place, and they connect the underworld, the middle world, which we dwell on, and the upper world is the atmosphere. And I don't know how it all works, but I'm sure there's some physicists that could explain that. And I know that there are lots of people, not lots, but there are several groups of people throughout the world that are figuring out ways to harness electricity that comes out of the trees. Let's see if I can find one. Well, I'll tell you what, and let's see. Well, I'll show you guys this. And while we're at it, another example. So one of the things, I'll show you this image right here before we go any further. That's an orb that I filmed. And if you look real closely, that's an orb with a face in it. A very apish-like face in it. And what happens, a lot of times when people have sightings, they see these lights in the sky. I filmed this middle of the day out in an area close to, actually it was right in a swamp on the edge of Lake Erie, right? Here's another example of some of the things that are in the trees and around the trees. If you notice right here, there's a head right here with this a black eye. It's got a white face. You can see the nose almost got like a Fu Manchu beard, and you got red hair. And there's another one right there. If you look real closely, that's what I filmed in this tree. I noticed that these things kind of show up around the silver maples when they're in the spring, when they the seeds, the helicopter seeds getting ready to fall. I'm not saying what they are. I mean, for all I know, I know one thing, they're definitely not pareidolia. And the other things, it's easy to say they're just spirits. But do we even know what we mean when we say spirits? That's the question I have. What is a spirit? We automatically assume that it's human. And then we assume that it's something that's on the astral plane or in the spirit realm, right? Or whatever, something that's outside of us. But what if there's things going on around us that are they're there, but we can't see them, and they're not in the flesh and blood physical form? How many people have even seen that? Whereas we probably haven't seen that. There's another example of those. You pay attention to these things in the trees, and they're not pareidolia. Here's a perfect example right here. This is it's not the best of my images I have of it. It's been distorted a little bit, but this is the pyramid teepee structure. And right here is what some would call a dogman, Ohio grassman, or a Bigfoot. But what's interesting about it is the lifeless eyes, and they talk about that as well. The Alchemist. Okay. Is that you, Burn? Is that somebody else? Yeah, probably is. So anyways, you look at this right here and you can see this is it's a little distorted, but it's got this reddish brown hair. This is the head. This is the outline of the body. This is the head, the outline of the head and the face. The typical ears that point out a little bit like that. That's the outline of the, oh shoot. That's like the cheek. This is where the mouth is. This is the nostrils and the nose. And there's the eye right there. And that was right next to that cheepy structure. Thing is, you didn't see it. Like it was a ghost, like it was an apparition, like it was a poltergeist of some sort. Now, I'm not saying it's those things. I'm just saying it's like those things. But it's easy to say they are those things, but that doesn't mean they are those things, right? And that's part of the problem with this whole reason. I don't even where I lost you guys. You guys are pounding it out. So, let's watch this video. And then this is one of the. It's been around a while, and it's allegedly of a Bigfoot. Now it could be a guy in a costume, until you start really paying attention to the way it's walking. Those big feet that it has. Is it a guy in a costume? It's and what's the things? These things they travel. They're just like they're there and they're gone. Now, part of the problem with this video is that someone's following it, right? So, is this something staged? I can't tell you that. I can't tell you it's real. I wasn't there, but I do know one thing. I've seen stuff like that. Is it a big Sasquatch? I don't know. And that's part of the problem. The way things work out here is like half of you going to say it is and half you're not going to say. But the problem, the true answer in all this is we don't know. Right? We don't know. We can assume we know, but we can assume it's that it's something that's fake, it's staged, but we don't know that. So we just have to put it aside there and say, hey, it's a possibility that's the real deal. I don't know if we should watch any of this stuff. Then I'll look at this stuff and say, where are we at now? Just listening back in a couple minutes. There you go, bro. You're like, that's I expected that, man. I understand. I understand completely. I wouldn't mind having a cigarette myself. This is an interview that I did or had a group discussion. This is with Mike from Long Island Bigfoot. Then we got text from Texas Front Porch. He's a researcher. We got the Great Outdoors Biggie. We got Squatch Topic PA from Pennsylvania. They got me. And this is a footprint that was filmed in Texas in the mud. Interesting toes. And we're talking about toes here because we're filming and things like in say the southern shores of the Lake Erie and parts of Ohio, 6-toed creatures, quite a bit. Then my friend,
really?
Yes, and then
larger, like it's a big foot with the 6 toes.
Yeah, and then there's other ones like my friend from British Columbia, Sasquatch Confessions. Him and his brother filmed when they had 4 toes. Yeah, people have been arguing forever and a day that it has to be 5 toes. So what are we dealing with here? Multiple different beings, possibly? Or are we dealing with different types of Bigfoot that come in different, or could it just be one be missing a toe? That could be, but when you really look at it, it clearly isn't. I think this one right here, this is from Tex, and that's got 1, 2, I think it's got, I can't remember. He said it. I'm not gonna, you guys can look it up if you want, but I'm not gonna play the audio because I'm here to listen to you, bro. Just playing in the background. But yeah, Long Island Mike, he was amazing. This is Long Island, huge teepee structures. We're talking trees 30 to 40 feet in height, and making these long like teepee structures. We call them teepee structures because there'll be a main tree, right? And then they lean these things all around this tree. And you're like, but the problem is this is throughout the whole country, from the West Coast to the East Coast, all the way in Canada, all the way down into Mexico and into Central America. And, you could say it's all human beings do it, but when you start looking at these places, you're like, a group of human beings has put that amount of time to make that, to do what? But for a hoax, it could be the government. I thought about that one time. But the more and more you look into it, in fact, you see it over and over again, you're like, nope, there's something else going on here. There's something else going on here. Or there's just more than just one thing going on here. Sure, there'll be some people hoaxing it, but the vast majority of those things, we're talking huge.
Absolutely. And like, I'm glad you bring them up, because when I first started like watching like YouTube videos on different Sasquatch Bigfoot researchers and seeing that this evidence of this, I was like, yeah, what the heck is it? I don't know so much. And then since then, my own hiking, like in Canada, in the Rockies, in the wilderness, in Alberta and BC, I've noticed them everywhere, and like in really tough, like middle of nowhere locations.
Absolutely.
That it's just like as if like some human came out and did this. And
It's, I have to really check myself too, because I'm constantly looking, right? Going down the highway where I'm driving. And it's like, because I see them all the time, right? I mean, there's a huge X structure and where the off ramp there, an overpass that goes into the main, I guess we 23, Highway 23, right? Leading up to Michigan. There's a huge X structure there. And since that time, there's been more and more things thrown around it, like trees that just should not be there. Like something hauled a big tree and threw it there as some kind of blind while it watches the traffic at night. It's bizarre, and it happens all the time. And once you start seeing these things, you're like, wait a minute, how can that X structure be there? What are the odds of it being there? And then, I mean, unless there's a whole bunch of teenagers that have nothing else better to do in their lives, and they're like tromping around in the severe rough terrain and everything just to make an X structure, just to fool a guy like me. The problem is I don't know nobody in my town is doing what I'm doing. It's not like very few people are interested in what I'm interested in.
And doing it everywhere simultaneously in all the forests of North America.
And I've dealt with plenty of hoaxer, but there comes a point you just like there's something deeper going on, and the question then comes is how do we know that this Sasquatch is doing it? We've seen these stuff in the sky, these things we call UFOs, and all of a sudden we're also some people seeing things that are not just Bigfoot, but it's like seeing little hairy guys, a dwarf-like looking things that look like aliens, other things that look like human beings. And then the things I'm filming, and you're just like, there's a whole ecology out there. Whether you want to call it spiritual or something that's connected with the plasma, or multidimensional things, there's something deeper going on here. And I think it could be potentially, if it's handled properly, a whole new interesting fields of science that can influence us in so many ways, from whether it's free energy or some way of for transportation, etc.
Right? What's the actual term? Transtemporal transportation, right? Like transdimensional sciences and technology. Essentially,
and maybe it has some kind of influence to how the ziggurats and the temples and the pyramids of old, how they were actually built. You know what I mean?
Most likely, right? Most likely with that.
Now, and it doesn't mean it has to be like Solomon's temple, and it's supposedly he used these demons. What if that's just a red herring?
A major part of like the occult aspects of alchemy and the metaphysical alchemy, magic side of it, and when I first read it, like, and got exposed to it, I'm like, oh, what a bunch of like BS! Like, are you kidding me? This is a joke. But now, after several years of research and like my own life experiences, and then starting to understand the complexities of both the geometry of their spell casting systems, as well as like their the practice, the actual ritual, like what you're doing in order to cast the spell, the actions of it and stuff. I wouldn't mess with it, and I'm not ruling out that it's not actually real. Like it's pretty intense, but
Well,
uh,
there's a lot of guys. I just read a book right now. It's called Witchcraft, and I'm not into any of that stuff. I'm not a practitioner of any of the arts. Whether it's white magic or black magic, and just read it. It's called Witchcraft. It's power in the world, right? And William Seabrook is a one weird dude, right? But that weird dude, he looked in areas that most people wouldn't dare. But one of the things he talked about is white and black magic, how they'll turn around and bite you in the ass. You don't know what you're doing, and just because whether you have good intentions or bad intentions, right? And basically, what it comes down to. And there's something outside there that's just something that, he has a hard time he had a hard time believing that they're actually spirits, and I'm having a hard time as well at this point as well. It's all just these demons or spirits. What they're doing. There's something. There's a force. There's a power. You guys talk about who's that one guy with the Polish or accent, the engineer that's with you, the APEC. You guys get together and they made the time they were talking about sentient plasma, and they get all excited about that, right? And then once the plasma,
there's a couple of times we've brought it up. With APEC, trying to think of the Eastern European accent one. But yeah, no, I know exactly.
He's from NASA, and he's always talking about that. He's bringing up books and he talks about this and hints about this. He calls it the super force.
Oh, right. Romanian Sal Pius, 100%. Yeah.
So what if that's what we're dealing with is the super force? We're dealing with some kind of energy that has a semblance or kind of is like some kind of sentient or intelligent life form, but we just don't have a better way of describing it. You know what I mean? We don't know what we're really dealing with. Is basically what I'm saying. But maybe our ancestors did know what this super force was and harnessed it.
Right. I fully agree with that. That like you're saying, drawing back to plasma and conscious plasma and all experiments I've done with these monoatomics that are supposedly a type of plasma, and the putting electricity in, which is essentially type of plasma, and that you got to realize like all your cells, your blood essentially is also plasma. So is this where this conscious life comes from? Is plasma itself in plasma state, and that these they're also simultaneously existing outside of our third dimension physical realm, could be higher, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, who knows how high up they go, dimensions and of planes of reality, and that they're very likely the fourth plane and dimension is of just plasma, that essentially that's what these beings could be. That's why there's these legend stories of like plasma dragons, jellyfish, and stuff like that up in the skies, or what you see in space. And
my friend acquaintance Brown Dwarf just filmed this. He films it all the time. You call them jellyfish. That's exactly what it looks like. It looks like jellyfish up in the sky with tentacles. And when you zoom in on it, you realize they're not balloons. He's filming this stuff.
Do you mind? Do you want to? Are you able to bring up the video of that by chance? Or
yeah. What do I do? Are you mine or yours? You're going to bring up one, right?
Well, if you wanted to bring up that one specifically on yours, I've got on mine. I've got the plasma orbs of Headley, BC up.
Right. Now remind me again how to. Do I just
on
solo layout? How's that?
It's it should just be a rectangle below the main, like next to.
Well, like, the present, right?
Yeah.
But I want you to present, or you want me to present?
No. For you to bring up mine, you just have to click on the box, the other box that says BurnEye Crypto Alchemist. I guess it's black. It'd be
Right,
below.
solo layout like that, right?
Wouldn't be solo. No, that's just me.
Okay, what am I doing wrong here?
Below the main screen, there's a bunch of rectangles like of your camera, my camera, my
I've done this
second.
before. Believe it or not, I've done this before. It says, stop screen, no. Sides, extra camera.
Oh no, it's not in those options. It's above that.
It's in your box, right?
It's in between the very bottom with the where you're clicking present and the main StreamYard like screen. There's a bunch of other little tiny rectangles of how to present or how the layout is. It's in the layout options.
Is this what you want, or this what you want?
Yeah, keep going with those, and then you just have to click on or you stop sharing, and then mine will pop up, I guess.
What am I doing wrong here? How many?
Keep cycling. You're gonna find it. You're gonna get the right one, I think. Because currently it's showing your. There we go. You got it.
Okay, I got it. It wasn't there, and it just showed up. Okay.
So for context, this is Headley, BC. This was filmed in 2019, and it was filmed by my friend Craig, who is Headley Man BC on YouTube, whose video this is. We went out there this past summer of 2023 in July, and that is where we experienced the Sasquatch of the story I'm about to tell. But this is what was there a few years prior and our reason for going there in the first place.
Bernie stuff is epic.
That's in the air, man.
So it's Craig and his 90-year-old neighbor.
I saw a light flash down. It was going around the top, searching shit. See it moving? And fuck it, I just seen 8 little red orbs come up and around it. And I like with this, it's a ship, man. If you can get Robert, that's some good stuff. Okay. God.
So what? Tell us more what's going on here, buddy, because I don't see anything yet.
So you can see on the bottom. Actually, maybe you don't have the comments up because I think that's where the orbs are. It's just on the very bottom of.
Is it on the very bottom? That's what I was worried about. Okay.
Yeah. There's. This was the first night, and you can see it right down there. Right.
You filmed this?
It keeps popping up. This was Craig who filmed it in Headley a few years ago. This was the first night. It's him and his 90-year-old neighbor that came outside that you can hear talking back and forth. I guess the camera's battery was weak on this video, and then I'm going to play a second video which has way more action from the second night. And I guess they came 3 nights in a row.
Like if you could see it magnify, you would see that. If I could show you here, if I could get it, I'll show you all the little red. There it is.
There's a satellite that goes across here.
So what you started seeing flashing lights? Were they changing colors? Looks like they're changing colors. Did you notice that with your naked eye before you filmed it? What was going on?
Look at it, Margaret. Look at.
I think he walked away.
Shit.
So
Watch.
it was Craig
Good.
that filmed
Watching.
this, not me.
Now watch.
But yes,
See
he
it?
says
Little red
changes
ball.
colors
Look.
and
Yeah.
Look at the fucking
uh,
thing. It's spinning. Watch.
does all sorts of
Just
stuff.
keep watching. You'll see red
That's
balls way out
good.
in front of it.
That
Just
looks
keep watching.
legit. I
Keep
film them
spinning.
all the
Watch.
time
It
like
disappears.
that too.
It's back.
The
Watch.
energy,
See the little red
the
balls?
amount of energy that he
Watch.
emits.
You'll see them way out. See the balls out in front of it?
Yeah.
It's a big, huge. Look at. It's a big, huge, round thing like a
Like
fucking.
a spaceship.
It's like a fucking planet.
Oh, there.
Like
I see
small.
the red. Oh, there.
It's
And there's a
all over it.
branch in
But I'm
front of
just
it, right?
saying that that's a round. Look at it. It's coming out from inside. Look at that's an orb. Like it's like the power's on the inside of a round planet, but it's right above us.
Now, is this
Darker,
above the
it's not even a
trees? Is it above the
kilometer away.
forest? What is
This,
it?
this
There's
is on
branches.
down on the
top of
mountain on
a
this thing.
giant
Can you
mountain.
believe that?
On the very top of the mountain
Goddamn
is where they filmed this.
Oh, come on, look
And
at it,
there's,
man.
looks like there's trees as well, right?
It's right above
Oh.
trees, yes.
We can see
Inside.
how you
Which I film a lot. There's another association I find with trees, orbs.
without looking in your camera.
In fact, I've talked to
You can
like
just see the dot up there. You can't see
several
that.
guys who interact with these orbs things, and one of the guys goes by the name of
No, what's
the
that?
orb whisperer. He's from Australia, and he says they come out of the trees, which is interesting that he say that. Now we go back to this, whatever these trees are doing as far as I know we talked about before about the trees and how they emit some kind of energy, electricity. You can run a light bulb through a tree. You're just plugging it in, right? You've probably seen that, right? And then they're running a light bulb just from the static electricity from the leaves rubbing against each other. And then you'll find a lot. I mean, let's put it this way. You have a better chance of filming an orb in the edge of the woods than you will any other place. So there's some kind of association with the trees. And you're muted.
Thank you. Yeah, and so this was day 2, I believe, that he filmed this. The second night, he said they came 3 nights in a row. And I'm gonna have to check because these ones actually might be above the tree line where it was, because they were really high up, super tall mountain, and where he was showing when I went to Headley and Craig described the experience and was showing in the daylight the layout of the town and the 2 mountains. The main mountain behind the town is famous for, I believe it has over 100 miles or 400 miles of gold mining tunnel shafts within it. And then the second mountain that was on perpendicular to it on the other side of the town has zero.
I think it has
access.
40 miles of. I think it's 40.
40. Sorry, yeah.
If it's a mountain. Yeah. I remember you talking about that. I do remember you talking about that.
Yeah, I guess 400.
I pay attention to the bird. He's one.
Yeah.
There's only a handful of people I even pay attention to anymore on the internet, and of all people, BurnEye is one of them. I don't know why. I do know why, because I learned a ton from listening to his conversations, and I can relate. There's only a handful of people I actually listen to these days, and I never, 2 years ago, never thought I'd be listening to a guy like BurnEye, but I am.
Well, thank you, Mike.
Thank you for
that. And
thank you for you doing
absolute great work yourself, my friend. So yeah, this mountain, the second mountain, has zero access to it. It's like just straight cliff, pretty much cliff face the whole way up. No mines, no anything on it, and that it was pretty much like I believe just below the peak, or almost on like the ridge, or almost on the peak, or like the ridge of the top ridge of the mountain, that these 2 orbs, or several orbs here, are filmed. That it seems like there's either 1 or 2 main entities, motherships, you might say, but who knows if they even are ships, whatever they are, and that some other ones seem to come out of them.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up too, because one of the things I've noticed as well is this possibility. At least it looks that way. I don't know what it's actually going on either, but what if these things consolidate, coagulate, if you will, into a giant mass, and then they disperse,
Quite possible, right?
kind of like ants, but ants in the sky, when they're made out of plasma. I mean, I'm not saying they're literally ants, but the behavior, you know what I mean?
Right? Good observation. And yeah, so I'll hit play here, and quite good footage by Craig. I'll post the link for everyone in my chat.
And then I think what I'll do is I'll share a couple of videos as well. One of a UFO, a possible UFO. Actually, they are. And then another one that's very interesting is it's like a black blob that ends up. I don't know if you saw that one yet. It actually grows out antenna, or not like arms or spikes. It's really bizarre. That way I can go use the restroom.
Absolutely.
But I'm having fun. Thank you for joining me. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Vice versa, my friend.
I wanted to talk to you for a while, so I'm glad it's happening. Because I truly believe there's a correlation and a connection between what you guys are doing and what people are talking about plasma and electromagnetic, whatever they're in the electromagnetic frequency. Then we talk about these parallel universes, which I don't know exactly what that means fully. I don't know if anybody does yet, but you know what I visualized, Bernie, someday, and I'd be very surprised, and others aren't as well. Is, can you imagine like 100 years from now? Like right now, we're staring at our computer screens, but in 100 years, what we're doing with these computer screens, we'll be looking into different parallel universes. So at one screen, we'll be looking at some place with all sorts of strange creatures running about. In another place, it might be something that's very human-like, right? And totally different type of culture, society, of different modes of transportation, and different rites and rituals. I can just see it. I can see it happening. Once we could crack the code, you know what I mean? Or codes.
Absolutely. Sorry, one moment, Mike, just on the phone. Right, but like I see what you're saying there. Like if technology, it's like you could almost peer into.
Well, that's what they're thinking. It's not like the occult has gone away. It's not like these dreams have gone away. You know what I mean? Not only of eternal life and eternal youth, but more importantly, that that we might actually understand the things that we're seeing and witnessing, right? And then maybe even interact with them. And if astral projected and out of body experiences are real, and these stories are real, which I can't say if they are or not. I mean, but if they are, and people are saying they're seeing, like Bob Monroe and the Monroe Institute and the University of Virginia, they're researching near-death experiences and out-of-body experiences. A lot of them seem like they're hallucinations, and there are like things that things that
what necessarily is a hallucination for all
that's a good question.
Could also just be an experience that is out of body or metaphysical.
Now here's the thing: the guys like Monroe, who know that's not are with us, but they talk about when they astral project and go into in these other realms, that they see different types of entities and beings, different types of cultures. Like they'll be hanging out and maybe it's all human, right? Like humans, and they're living differently. You know what I mean? The homes are different. What they eat is different. I just wondered if there's a possibility. I mean, when you look at Hollywood, we look at the movies that we make now. What are we doing? It's not only just make believe, but we're kind of creating a new realities, right? New worlds. What if once we crack the code, we're actually be watching. I mean, if I were them, if I were in their position, it would be one of my dreams to be able to simultaneously be in different realities or different
right
universes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, existing your conscious and physical beings simultaneously existing in multiple time spaces simultaneously, right? That's quantum existence slash essentially demigod or god dimensional existence.
Pretty much,
And
but I think, I mean, it
there's
might,
stories of us doing it in the past. If people that do, astral project stuff like that for lucid dream, for all we know, that is quantum existence essentially.
right. I mean, and as far as the demigod thing or being a godlike, I mean, today you might call it that, but tomorrow it'd be just like where you and I are now, just talking via the internet and through, you know what I mean, through StreamYard and YouTube. It's just different platforms in which we're sharing our individual realities together, right? But in the future, we'll actually be literally doing it and holding different universes or worlds. And isn't that the ultimate in dream? I mean, wouldn't that be awesome? I think that'd be awesome.
Oh,
And I
sure.
could.
Higher dimensional beings, and that the legends of around the world that we used to be there, and what's to say that we don't have that potential within us right now, and that there aren't uh, being humans amongst us that are experiencing and living exactly that.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, if it can be done, this is how I see it, Bernie, is that if I thought of it, somebody already else has, right? There's not original thought I've ever had, right? It, for me, it
100%.
is, but you know,
Nothing new under the sun, right?
that's
Like
right. And then,
with my alchemy, that's why I don't try to claim like, oh, I've discovered this, discovered that. Oh, it's my discovery, name it after myself. It's like, no, I've rediscovered this. It's a lost art and science, and that there are many throughout history that have also rediscovered it and learned it, taught it, and at one point it was common knowledge, and it's a higher technological as well as metaphysical, uh, almost God code science, or understanding and knowledge. It's quite fascinating stuff, really.
yeah,
Alchemy seems to be the missing, hidden, both history as well as um, greater knowledge, understanding, universal understanding, teaching of
uh-huh.
uh, humanity.
Would you like me to show some stuff now, or you're
Yes, absolutely. Guess
okay?
we
Let
went
me,
through there.
and you guys can listen to some of this. Um, I think. I don't know. I don't know if the audio.
No,
But just some good stuff. So the
got
first one
muted.
is UFO number 3. I think I've totally spelled that wrong. It's supposed to be reverses, and I put reserves. It's supposed to be reverse directions and dives into a tree, and then afterwards will be the black blob this in the sky that spreads out its tentacles. It's quite fascinating. So,
I gotta just hit the unmute there. Yeah, you got it.
and I have to use the restroom.
See you in a minute. Weird. Don't know if the sounds were playing, but videos.
Sound better?
Doesn't. I don't think the sound's actually going through for some reason. Strange.
Not much to listen to, so just pay attention to the images. This one's very
Yeah, images are what's gold, and they're epic. That's one of like the jellyfish sort of things, correct?
kind of like it. I'm going to sneak a cigarette while you're watching.
Fair enough. I'm gonna do the same, and then when we get back, I will finally go through my Headley Sasquatch experience. Wow. I see what you're saying about the tentacle-like things coming out. That, wow. So this is in the sky. This is a UAP potential sky plasma jelly or a creature of some sort. I believe it was either Mike or his friend, personal friend, one or the other that recorded this.
What do you think?
There are a few questions in the chat by Attuned Flux, but absolutely epic and mind blowing. That's in the sky, recorded up in the sky.
Absolutely. In Brazil.
Oh, Brazil. Okay, so this what I thought you guess it was a different video you're referring to. So this was not recorded by a friend of yours. That was just.
No, I know this is not from a friend of mine. That was from Brazil. That was.
I'd never seen that before. That's nuts.
No, isn't it amazing? And it starts spreading out like that and into like tentacles, like our arms, spikes. And how how do they go about doing that? What are we dealing with here? You know, because it doesn't seem like
plasma being for sure. If real, right? Like just something you might actually see in the sea, right? But instead,
well, that's interesting you bring that up because even I know a lot of people suspect Jack Valet, but he does bring up some very interesting points. And one thing he brings up, two things. He interviewed a couple in Northern California where they had a UFO encounter, and they described to him that it went through the trees. And the other one is in the numerous. Have you seen this one before? This is from MUFON. And this is supposedly a UFO. What was bizarre about the whole thing is how small it is and low it is, and then it changes. Look at it morphs like that. Those things pop out. I don't know if we have technology like that. Maybe.
I guarantee is got to be a drone. Like looking because that video is several years old, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so I remember seeing it back in the day and being like, I don't know about that, but like rewatching it now, that's clearly Like,
But how did those things pop out? Now watch what happens. Now, like, some people say CGI, but I don't know about that one. I mean, I know that they have software out there you could figure out real fast if it is CGI. But I know a lot of people just throw it out there without thinking about it or doing the homework. But when you look at this thing and the way it's look at those things pop out like that, and then but eventually it will just vanish. Watch what it does with the classic UFO where it shoots off, right? Now, do we have drone technology that can move as fast as, because we're not, as it carries on, we'll see the full thing as it, watch, I think this is where it starts to take off. And the camera starts acting funny, and then boom, just like that. It just takes off. It disappears just like that.
into warp sort of thing. Wow.
So this might be more in line with what you guys are talking about, the crew that you're talking about, the APAC, right? So it's called. And so I wanted to show you.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Thanks for sharing this. I find it very interesting, and definitely gonna bring it by some of the guys to check out. Because
so, what are the things that they're popping out there? What are those things for? And what's the logic behind it? I don't see it actually. It seems a little bit more stabilized, but then then they go in, and then it just
interesting.
And then it goes boom. Now that's okay. It could be CGI, maybe it could be.
Yep, could be, right. So that's a good point though of the new AI stuff. There's like programs that you can run videos through that detect and whether they're fake or not, but that's a good project to do in this UFO community would be to start a database of doing that, and I guarantee there'll still be a large portion of videos that they find legitimate, and then be able to put more energy into figuring out what they are, and that verify at least that they're not AI or altered or fake image videos.
Yeah, I mean, they have the opportunity to do that. So that's, before we just go say that it is, fake or CGI or whatever, we need to examine the video a little more closely, right? Well, this is one of those. I don't know if I want to watch. Let's talk about your encounter now with Bigfoot, if that's all right.
All right. Yes. I gotta pull up this.
And I can play this in the background. These are just like these energetic lights, and I have some images that I filmed as well. I filmed the exact same thing that like that there. I find right around the trees, within 80, within 60 to 80 feet from me. So I don't know, man, what's going on here. So, but let's talk about your Bigfoot, unless you don't want to.
Sorry, do you mind just for the Headley?
What's that?
To switch, I've got a couple pictures pulled up of Headley, BC. It's just for viewer reference here. So this is Headley, BC. This is where it happened. It is, I believe, 300 kilometers east of Vancouver, or the Pacific coast of Canada. I guess it's in or just past the coastal mountains of BC, and point being, quite isolated spot. Lots of natural terrain that's uninhabited, and it is a old gold mining town that is no longer in operation, and there's, I guess, 40 miles, so almost 100 kilometers of mine shafts in the mountain directly above the little town of, I believe, 300 people. extremely small. And the video of the orbs above that I was showing earlier, that was filmed by Craig, the resident of Headley, we went out to visit and stayed with. That was in 2019, and then we went out this past summer, and Craig was showing me around the mountain a bit, and we actually hiked up to this spot here, kind of just nuts. The accuracy, like the old mining stuff, the shafts themselves, just did crazy stuff. Quite cool. I encourage people to check it out themselves. But the first night I was there, I experienced what I believe was Sasquatch. One Sasquatch coming up. Maybe be better to put us on camera, Mike, if you don't mind switching the view. Just so I can.
What do you want to do? You get out of there.
Yeah, I guess I can just. There we go. There we go. So this summer.
Is that what we want? Is that what we want? Or no. What do we want?
That's showing us. There we go. That's good.
No, that's not right. Is that what you want to watch there, or you want
Yeah,
me
that's good. That's good.
Anyways, so go ahead and talk to us about this.
My friend Craig that we stayed with there, who had filmed those orbs a few years prior, he's got a property on the very edge of the Headley town, up towards on the very base of the mountain that has the gold mine above it. And his property is the very last property of the town that borders the forest tree line that then runs up the entire mountain into the mine. That we were staying in a little camper on the edge of his acreage. It was about 200 to 300 meters, about quarter mile maybe from the camper to his house. And it was like in the back, tucked away in the back of his yard, with waist high grass all around that had been undisturbed up until us walking up from his house, carrying our stuff and putting it into this little camper. The camper being one of the style that just fits into the bed of the back of a pickup truck. And yeah, it was just me and Amber there that night. It was about, I'd say, 11 o'clock at night. The sun had gone down for about hour at that point. And in July, in the north, it's still quite light, quite late there. And I was sitting on the stairs, the fold-out stairs at the back of the little camper, outside of it, having a cigarette. And Amber was making the bed up for us to go to sleep. And all of a sudden I hear like this grunting noise, kind of like it was like grunting and like knocking. And I was like, what the bloody heck? And from inside, Amber's like, Bernie, cut that out. What the hell are you doing? And I'm like, that's not me. And spooked by that, I put the cigarette out quickly, closed the door, and locked it, and was like, okay, that was weird.
No, were you outside when you heard that, or were you inside?
Yeah, I was outside, and so it was about, I'd say, 20 to 30 meters between the camper and the forest tree line, and it was coming from like just behind the main tree line sort of thing. And so as soon as I closed it, stopped sort of thing, and we're just discussing like, well, that was freaky. What the heck was that? And then I guess we kind of went quiet actually, and kind of like heard something like whatever that was walk off. And then we were just like talking, getting ready for bed. It was about, I'd say, 5 or 10 minutes later that we then hear this thing make its call. Like it was. It's hard to describe the sound of the call that it made. It's something like in between like an elk's mating sound, an owl's call, and a cat, like a cougar, tiger, like kittens, like yeah sound sort of thing mixed together. Those three
So was
sounds.
was it anything close to like the Sierra sounds? You heard of them?
Uh, I have not, so I
Okay.
can't give reference to that.
Okay.
But it it came from, and it's essentially this. It walked up from the tree line where we were to this area, essentially that was right below, so where the trees incline ends, and then the straight cliff face up of the cliff mountain cliff face up to the mine shafts was. So it's like it was the center of the mountain. It was like this perfect echo that it bounced off of the other mountain that's parallel there and went off sort of like into the valley. If that makes sense, like it positioned itself in this perfect acoustic area in the canyon and the mountains to echo its call off, and it did like 3 calls. And Amber states, will testify to this exact same experience, that about 5 seconds later, from like about 15-20 kilometers, maybe miles, like the next township over, we hear this faint same sound call coming right back to it. So that there was essentially 2 of these things, and they called to each other. And that about another 15 minutes then passed from there. Amber had fallen asleep. I had been rather spooked, so I had barricaded the door shut, as it was like a really flimsy camper door that the lock was broken on it, didn't even lock. So I was like putting a couple tables and chairs up to it, and Amber had found me a couple of fireworks just in case, because we were kind of spooked together at that point. But she had fallen asleep, and then I was finally kind of calming down, and I hear something start walking up from this tree line again, and I hear it walk straight up to the little screen kitchen window in these campers that's like right behind the sink there before you go up into like the bed area. And that's about 8 feet. It was 8 feet up that this little screen window thing was. And that I hear this thing come up, animal, whatever it was, walk directly up and stop right at the screen and then start sniffing. And it was sniffing, and it was about, there like this little tiny screen and this little fabric blind between us. And I was just like absolutely terrified that I was about to get taken by this thing or something like that. All I could envision was it like bursting through this door, or like just grabbing through the screen window. So in the moment, I wish I had actually like just turned on my video camera and like opened up the blind and like tried to film whatever the heck was there sniffing at me. But instead I turned on the flashlight, and I had a bottle of cologne, and I put the flashlight and the cologne, sprayed the cologne, shining the flashlight behind the blind to like get rid of whatever the heck was there. And I just hear it like drop to the ground, and essentially like what sounded like it roll off and run off. And I then was like, what the heck? And like Amber had woken up and was like, what's going on? And just was like in shock sort of thing, and then calmed myself, but enough to go to sleep with her. And then in the morning, got up, went outside, and checked, and sure enough, where before it was completely waist-high undisturbed grass, there were these giant footsteps from the tree line up into the window, and then what looked like about 7 or 8 feet of just flattened grass, like something large had laid down and like rolled, and then what looked like disturbed of something running off. And I wish I had taken a picture of that at least, and regret it that I had not. So, people want to claim I've made it all up. Go for it. That is what I experienced. Sticking to it. Don't know. I think it was Sasquatch.
Sounds like it. So you found footprints, first of all. What do they look like? Do they have how many toes? That kind of stuff.
It was dry, like it's extremely dried dirt, rock, and like on top of grass. So it wasn't like heavy detail. It was just big flattened things of grass, sort of thing.
And okay, so
no indents like into the dirt or the mud.
How close do you think they got to you when you were inside?
It was literally it was. I'm pretty sure I sprayed it in the face, like hit it with the perfume cologne that going through the screen. Like it was right there. Like
how many people can actually say that? That's amazing. This, by the way, it's an amazing element to the story.
Oh, and
you can hear it breathing.
Off when Amber woke up right after that had happened, and I had just sprayed a bunch of cologne. She's like, "Oh," she's like, "Why all the cologne?" And she's like, "You fucking reek! Like, why do you stink so horrible? You've never smelt this bad before." Like saying that over the cologne, and then like I'm like the next morning, I'm like, I don't smell like BO or stink that bad. And then like in retrospect, it's like, was that her smelling the stench of supposedly these things stench so bad? And like
they do. That last one I filmed, it stunk so bad it smelled like a cross between a rotting corpse and a wet dog, like they say.
Yeah, like she's to this day says, and now she's starting to say it, like in what she's says of that it probably wasn't me that she was smelling, and that it in retrospect was probably that, but states that she had never smelt me or around me so wretched before in her life or to this day. It was the most wretched scent she has ever experienced.
Universal. It's a universal saying. Everyone says, and I had that same experience. This one right here, which is the last one I filmed back in May 15th of this year, it's literally smelled like a rotting corpse of a large deer or a cow or something. It smelled that bad. And then that black figure you guys are looking at, that's not a log and that's not a stump. That's a Sasquatch. Actually, it's more than one. There's one, a smaller one on top of it. But anyways, so the other thing is, it was really close. You sprayed it with some cologne. This is brilliant. I mean, this is a brilliant story. Now, one of the things is you talked about that it sounded like it rolled away.
Yeah, like
it rolled away into, and then it rolled away into the forest, right, or to a ravine, or what?
Yeah, but it rolled from where it dropped from the window, and then there was like this big shrub about 10 feet away, like from the front of the truck in the camper, that it like rolled to, like all the grass was flat, and then you could see that there's like a trail of something that had ran off.
Oh, you saw a trail, so you saw something broken, like twigs.
More broken grass and twigs and stuff. Absolutely.
Wow, that's amazing. And it's a shame you weren't thinking about it and you didn't take photos of all that.
Yeah, I was still just like so sketched out, and like,
hey, listen, man, it never works out. Like all my close encounters, the camera was never close by, and you're not thinking about that anyways. You're in terror, right? You're in absolute terror and fear for your life, and you don't know what the hell's going on. Although I would suggest that the overall
to top it all off, like I'm now like good friends, love Craig and Sharon. They're absolute great hosts, great people. Look forward to going back and seeing them again, and hopefully we'll have Craig on sometime to actually tell his story with those orbs and whatnot. But in this camper, there was one sticker that was like this, like I guess probably some like heavy metal like band or something, but like it was just like up on it, like and or like probably 80s, 90s, who knows? But it was like sacrificial slaughter. Well, so I was like, oh my god, are we the like just in my head and like sketched this up.
No, wait a minute. Sacrificial slaughter.
Slaughter or something.
Where's this? Where was it?
In the camp, in this camper that we were staying in, right?
Oh,
And like we had just met the like Craig and Sharon, like as viewers off of like from my YouTube sort of thing, and we're just like blindly coming out, staying with them, hadn't really gotten to know them that night. I was like, and then all whatever this thing was like going on, I'm like, oh my god, did they like invite us out to like feed us to these things? Like, I don't know what's going on. Like, just, you know, in your mind in the moment, and, you know, something to laugh at afterwards.
So did they hear anything? How close were you to their place?
Oh no, there's two-story warehouse like buildings in between where I was on this in this camper, and then where their house is on the other side of the property. So quite a huge distance. Quite like it's we were the camper and where we were staying was like on the far corner of their property that pretty much never really used or gone to, sort of thing. Like it as far out to the boonies as you could realistically get.
No, you guys are blowing this up, and I can't keep up with it. So, sorry. Thank you for all the comments, though. It's really awesome. Yeah. So, one of the things, when it was rolling, did it seem like it was extremely larger than a normal sized man or a big guy? I mean,
it happened so quick. It did sound like something really large. Absolutely sounded much larger than like a human. Like it was a beast, whatever this thing was that came up, was like snorting, sniffing in, and then that suddenly dropped, rolled, and went off. And yeah, the amount of grass and foliage that had been crushed and flattened the next day, in retrospect of like my own self, I probably would have had to like roll one way, roll back, and like roll a couple times to get it all in one sort of thing. Yeah, it definitely looked like it would have had to be like.
Now, did you tell your friends about this afterwards?
Yeah.
You knew acquaintances?
Oh, absolutely. Like I definitely immediately told Craig and wanted to like gauge his like reaction to it, and he was like quite taken back, quite shocked, and kind of concerned, sort of thing of it all. Of like, are you like, you're actually serious? This went down on my property? Like, yeah, it was. Yeah.
Now, how when the orbs were filmed, how close to time was that? You know, was it the same time period? Was it in weeks, months, years? What?
Sorry, say that again.
The orbs that were filmed in that area.
Oh, those orbs had been filmed 4 years prior, 2019.
Okay. Just because a lot of times then when people see orbs, they or Bigfoot, they'll see the things or UFOs the same time period within weeks. You know what I mean, or even the same day. So I just wanted to know that. That's just fascinating, and it rolled. And that's just been fascinating. Not too many times you hear about that, but that doesn't mean that they don't do that. Or, you know, the other thing too is they go on all fours, right? So
yeah,
but you said it was squished down like it has been rolling out. And by the way, I've seen something similar to that too. I mean, I've been in the swamp where these things are where I film, and it looks like a giant herd of deer have showed up and all bedded down, right? So they do,
Yeah,
they
that's
do
the
roll around. I don't know
best
why they
way I
do that.
could describe what the grass looked like was like a herd of deer had laid down in the spot.
Fascinating. It's just absolutely fascinating. But you never saw it.
No, I really wish I had been brave enough to in the moment, but yeah, if it happens again, I will. But that time I
So
was
if we do a show again, I'll try to remember to download and record some the Sahara sounds. I could play it now and try to see it, but you said you're having a hard time hearing it through my mic, right? The video.
the videos.
Yeah, so I noticed with when it comes to this StreamYard that I'm best if I make small videos and put it download it on the brand area, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then do it that way because the audio just sucks. And geez, we might what is this? Ironically, a Yeti. I'm speaking through a Yeti. So, anyways, this is an image of a Bigfoot. This is a real. This is the I would argue is a real image of a Bigfoot that was captured a while back. I did not capture this, but what is interesting about if you look at it carefully of the bizarre nature of its body, its long arms, it's weird. I mean, if you look how it's running and the legs, I don't know anybody that can run like that without falling over. Look at the position of those legs.
Right.
Look how wild
That's
the air.
a great observation that you're right there. And a personal, like I've always, like a theory that I suspect is that they are able to like move or like jump or like do fast action, like short, quick movements that potentially are faster than the human eye can see, kind of like the gecko can, like do a strike movement. That's what I mean. Like they could, meant to say is they can strike to potentially or leap potentially faster, but who knows?
Right. I just wanted somebody said you said the Bigfoot was 6.5
Actually, how fast
feet.
would you have to be? That may be too quick.
I don't think he said that. I think he's saying that that's how far it was from him on the other side of the wall of his cabin. I don't think you have any idea how big it actually was, right? You didn't see it, so
No, I have no idea, but it was I did like measure. It was 8. The base of the screen window was 8 feet to the ground, and whatever had come up, I was hearing it literally half an inch away from the screen, like at the screen.
now you said that you heard breathing too, right?
Yes, like it was straight.
That's fascinating. So we're talking about 8 feet high, then it's the screen, but you didn't see, you could not see it, right?
I couldn't see it. So it's like if it was a bear that had come up, a bear would have to like go up on its paws to like brace itself, and like you'd feel it come up on the camper, and that definitely, whatever it was, did not touch or brace or even need it did, whatever it was did not touch or even grace the camper. It was careful enough to try to be quiet in its like investigation, sneaking up, smelling whatever it was doing.
So Sandra McDonald, yeah, I don't know if this is true. What's that? Did she just give us some money? Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's. Okay, thank you. So this is how do I first of all, how do I even collect that? I have never done it before.
I believe it's a super chat on my channel. Thank you.
Oh,
Sandra.
okay. Because I was going to send it over to you because I know you're having a. I mean, I'm financially hard up too, but you're in a worse situation than I am right now. So I was going to say, if it's to me, then send it to BurnEye. Is that to you?
Yeah, it's to me.
All right.
Thank you,
Sandra. Thank you so much. You know, you didn't send to me. Thank you for doing it for sending him because I know that BurnEye needs it. So.
And my situation has slightly changed. Hopefully, it's keeps going. But I had a few days of work this week. Got called back to this, I guess, the beverage company that I'm doing the packaging labeling for. only 3 days of work. Got the next 2 off, but then hopefully Monday it's full work of week. At least a few days again, but part-time work's better than no work. So that's
Yeah,
something.
just enough to get by right now. Huh? So hey, listen. One of the things I'd like to do too, but I still want to talk about this. But after we're done talking about the Bigfoot thing, maybe we walk around and show people some of your artwork, your shirts, and all that. Maybe somebody can think about how to purchase their stuff and that kind of stuff. But the Bigfoot, and so you heard it breathing, you couldn't see it. Well, by the way, this is very common, and this is one of the 14 elements of this, the high strangeness when it comes to Bigfoot. It's just perfect. It just sounds to me sounds legit because you heard it, you smelt it, you couldn't see it, and that's just how it works, man. It's like there's never that perfect package, that perfect experience where everything's. I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it's rarer than most people realize. I don't know how they go about doing it, and this is another one of these things about the high strangeness, the woo woo, as people like to say. But I think it's something that I don't know how they look. It's like they come in and out of the physical reality. And I don't understand why it, of all things, needed to roll. None of that makes any sense. Now, this is supposed to be this extremely intelligent creature and being, right? And how many times have you heard, or at least me, how many times have I heard reports where it just walked out in the middle of the road where somebody was going 55 miles an hour or greater or whatever it was. And it just walks like a dumb opossum. And I'm thinking to myself, this is not the signs of this really brilliantly intelligent creature. I'm not saying it's not. What I'm saying, a better way of saying this is, it's not trying to hide. If it was really trying to hide from humans and the cars, it wouldn't just walk out the middle of the road and get itself whacked. I'm not saying it hasn't happened, but it just doesn't make much sense, you know? And the other thing is, and here it is, and it's massive, it's big. You are there, some places this you're not familiar with. Now, there's a possibility that the guy that was there pulled a crank on a joke on it. Could have been, but I doubt it. I don't know what kind of mileage he's going to get out of it, but some people get into that, and maybe he's I doubt it. And the perfect scenario on the edge of the woods, perfect place. You're going to have a better chance having an encounter. I swear to God, if you're on the edge of the woods, then you're actually in the woods. All right. Okay. And that's one thing. You say that there's some kind of valley. You say there's kind of a ravine, a valley, something like that. Was there water behind there? Any chance?
Yeah. So there was a dry creek bed that it seemed to keep to and walk along, and that's what it had walked up on. That's
Always
what it walked back to.
Yes.
And I think that's what it used to go up to make when it did the call to the other one and went up a bit of the mountain that it walked.
Now, when you were the screening, you shot that was it Cologne? Was it
Cologne?
Yeah. And but you couldn't see it. I mean,
no, there was.
How close do you think it was? How close do you think it was, or to the screen?
Oh, it sounded like it was like within like inches at most. Like it was right there, and like all I could envision was this thing like deciding just to like go through and grab me. Because
you don't seem to be the type of guy who spends a lot of time listening to. If you don't even know what the Sierra sounds are, you're not a dude that spends much time studying Bigfoot, are you?
Not really. Like
I mean, do you spend much time like listening to people's encounters and that kind of stuff? You listen to the like howtohunt.com, which is in your neighborhood. To Steve, but howtohunt.com is a good one. Oh, you guys go check him out. He's got a couple of 100,000 followers now. And what he does is he reads people's emails and he'll email him in his encounters. And sometimes they're hoaxes, and sometimes they're just recycled old stories. And a lot of people, what they do is that they regurgitate the things you hear on the internet. You did not do that. You did not. You shared the things that you shared. No, the average person wouldn't know anything about Sasquatch unless they had that experience. because most people would say something completely different, that I shot cologne out the screen and the thing was only feet away, but I couldn't see it. Only someone who's experienced with Bigfoot would even know that that's something that could happen. In my book, from my now I'm just saying, I'm giving you some kudos. This is what I do. I'm giving you, like, I'm believing you. I'm believing your encounter. And I cannot explain
Like
to you, anybody, how they do it, how they can project themselves, if you will, or have some kind of, like, how can they be, like, how can you hear them breathing literally almost on top of you, and you look and they're not there, but you can hear it. I don't know how that happens, unless we're dealing with something that's paraphysical, ultra dimensional, or ultra terrestrial, and that Sasquatch is nothing that people think it is, and that maybe the First Nations people were telling us the truth all along about what these things are, which is they blur the line between the spiritual and the physical.
very good point.
I mean, for you to say what you just said, and the giveaway for me is that you didn't know what the Sierra sounds are, which is Ron Moore at Moorhead, and everybody check it out. Just look up the Sierra sounds, and you'll find endless vocalizations of what's going on in California and other places in the West. All right, these sounds, and so you didn't know that. So, and I doubt that you would just make that up. You don't seem to. That's the reason why I talk to you. You seem like an honest dude.
Appreciate it and try to be, right? Like,
I'm sure, yeah, and I appreciate it too that you are an honest person, because at times it's hard to find one. It really is. I hate saying that, but a lot of people don't have a problem just making up stuff just for attention or whatever. You know what I mean? And so thank you for sharing that. The other thing that I find very fascinating is the rolling thing. And that's something that very few people would even think about saying, yet it happens.
yeah,
Most people say, "Oh, it just ran away," and that's what they would say. You said that it rolled.
it dropped, rolled, then to this bush, then got up and ran, booked it, sort of thing. I suspect.
Well, it sounded like it. It sounded like it was
In
rolling.
retrospect, I'm thinking, and it's like I don't think I heard it. Like, I heard it get up, but I don't know if it. There was like this awkward, like, silent, like, moment that it might have just been there at that bush before it went. Now that I'm replaying it in my mind.
So there's a delay from the roll to when they finally
The
took off
the
into
roll, and then you hear it get up, and then there was just like nothing, like a pause, and then it's like it went.
and they do that quite a bit. A lot of times what they'll do is before they finally make their move to take off, they'll look back. Now, at the time when you heard that it roll to the time it took off, did you say everything was closed up so you could still hear through the cabin,
Yeah.
or did you have
Yeah,
windows open, or did you have?
All the windows were open where it's just screen, and then when there was the original grunting, I made sure that we went to like every window and like blocked the view of every window up, so like you couldn't see in to the camper at all. But like every window was wide open, like just screen, because it was so hot.
I don't know exactly in the end of the day what his intents were, but I would put my money on it that they was not planning on doing anything to you except checking you out. Just to let you know. And so,
right, like that, and that's what I'm saying. Like, in retrospect, like, I wish I had like looked at, like, gone through the blind and like tried to film it, take pictures.
I don't care who you are and how many times you have these encounters or experience, you ain't never ready for it. You aren't ready for it because they're not waiting for you to do a family portrait. And when it happens, it's just like they have some kind of sixth sense. It's okay. People talk about familiar or generational spirits, and we'll just say there's something like that. Okay, whether you believe it or not, we'll just say maybe there's some way of telepathic type of communication in which they know your thoughts and your actions and what you're up to beforehand. Let's just bring that up. It seems like there's a possibility from my research. And they already know what you're up to, what you're
Most
thinking.
animals and intelligence in nature, that seems to be the case.
So I doubt that they felt any threat to you and your girlfriend when they showed up. I think it was making its presence known, and I think it was more inclined just to investigate you like it does to so many other people. There's countless reports of people seeing them looking through their windows or hearing them, and yet the people will run out. I've done it myself, and ain't nothing there. There's nothing there, but I know damn well I heard something, right? And there's no way you're going to convince me I didn't hear something. And I was imagining it, and it's not a uniquely Michael Adam thing or yours. It happens in a whole bunch. So for you to bring that up too is just fascinating, because that's the reason why I want to talk to you about this stuff, because you seem to be a guy who's all over the place as far as your interests, and you don't seem like the type of dude who spends, although you have your little woo thing on Wednesdays, and when I pay attention to your woo thing, it's not the woo thing that I know, right? It's the different type
Yeah,
of
it's
woo
not
thing.
nearly as woo as it.
No, it's not woo. I mean,
It's actually pretty mild.
it's pretty mild, yeah. But you have some interesting characters that join you. But I definitely recommend people doing it, just checking it out. Especially find that interesting. The supposed, I don't know what well, my gut feeling is about those ancient alien artifacts is that, well, I know there's a lot of red flags, let's put it that way. But then again, in this Fortean world and the way it works, I wouldn't be surprised if it's the real deal, because this is how it is. It always seems like we're always being set up to be tripped up and be deceived and going down the wrong path. I mean, it seems to be a universal thing for most of us. I hope I don't know if you guys understand what I'm saying, but if you do, if you just study Charles Fort's research and others since him, and I know he was just a researcher that basically was, compiling reports out of newspapers and libraries, but there's people who actually do the field research to come back and say and confirm that there's a lot of high strangeness and nothing of it adds up. I mean, I'll tell you this much to anybody who's listening here: if you want to have a I can't say the word, a ghost or poltergeist experience, go to the woods at night. You'll have a better chance than any haunted house you've never been, or the edge of the woods. There's something going on with those trees, folks. There's something going on with those forests. I don't know how it's happening, how it works, but our ancestors told about it as well. I do believe a lot of the totem poles that they have are, they might have, watered down to make the Roman Catholics and the power structures that run this place happy. But those totem poles, when you start really paying attention to them, and if you really believe they're just about coyotes and eagles, no, there's a lot more going on. And they are talking about the spirit realm and the association with those trees and things that they saw traveling up down those trees, which I've been trying to tell you guys about as well. If you pay attention to the images I shared with you, and you brought up those edged woods and the trees, and that this thing came from the trees and it went back into the trees, correct? Basically,
yes.
I don't know how many times I have, and there's videos out there, and I wasn't planned to even talk about this. I didn't know how this. I haven't even, I'm used to people just not even showing up. So I've been grateful you showed up. But there's plenty of images and video out there of literally what we call Bigfoot Sasquatch coming in and out of trees. And I ain't making this up, folks. And I know this is hard to accept, but there's endless traditions, and First Nation people are talking about the same thing. Our own, if you got the European ancestry blood, they talk about the same thing. The man of the tree, the green man, the wild man of the forest. This is something that's universal, and there's something going on here that's beyond flesh and blood and beyond our understanding as far as anthropology, biology, and zoology. There's something deeper going on here. So when I hear what he said, those, to me, in my point of research, I'm saying that's a high probability that he really did have an encounter. When you start barfing out the predictable, usual things that people, the things that you want people to hear. Like a good investigator, you'll find out real fast, whether someone's BSing you're lying to you. So my money's on the fact that BurnEye actually had an experience. Now I can't say 100% it was a Sasquatch, but it sure has a lot of the behaviors of what a Sasquatch would do when encountering and meeting a new group of people and a familiar location. Now think about this. There's got a cottage that's on the edge of the forest. There's running stream, the dry stream, and they do travel, and somehow they use the water to travel. And I don't think it is what's used. I don't think it is what most people think. Because there's endless reports of these things manifesting, materializing out of the dry creek beds. Now, usually these dry creek beds are not really dry. If you dig a few feet, you realize there's still water. I don't know how they do it. I know it sounds absolutely bizarre. And you may say you're full of crap. And I'll say, okay, I understand where you come from because I used to be you. But I'm telling you, these things know how to just... I have personally witnessed and seen things where these things literally pop out of the frickin' ground. How's that? How is something that's supposed to be 8 to 10 feet tall, 600 to 800 pounds, just pop out of the frickin' ground? And when you go back there and look, there's no cave, there's no tunnel, there's no nothing. And they just pop out of the frickin' ground. We got images and we got video of them popping out of trees. We have tradition after tradition of them doing that. What are these things that we call Sasquatch? And what is their connection with these orbs and these UFOs? I'm not asking you to believe it, or take it or leave it. It's up to you. You know what I mean? But those of us who are doing this research know that there's something going on. I don't have the answers. And it's like most people, we don't have the answers. We can't explain why this happened. Nor am I a superstitious person. Nor am I one of these persons that there have been times in my life, especially when I first started having my encounters with these, that I became pretty superstitious, but I became level-headed again, right? Through time and experience. There's something going on. I don't know. Maybe if you guys have any answers out there in the audience, how they manage to materialize out of the ground, go through trees, pop out of trees, show up at somebody's cottage. The guy sprays freaking cologne at them. He hears their breathing, but can't see it. How do they just show up? You can't even see them. Now, they talk about cloaking, but I think that's a misdirection because I think they actually disappear or somehow they dematerialize. Don't ask me how they do it. It's against I know it makes absolutely no sense. You're like, this can't be. But there's a lot of things in this world that can't be. And it's only the reason why we're saying that is because we're ignorant about how they do it. Sorry about being all preachy about stuff, but when I hear that stuff, I'm just like, those are like my antenna go ding, ding, ding. I'm hearing somebody that probably had an experience. When I can also tell when somebody's just barfing out something because they spent a lot of time listening to Bigfoot stories.
Oh, good. Sorry about that. I just had to take a phone call from the wife, but yeah, no, like I feel you, man, and preach the truth. That's what it's about, and all you're doing is sharing your own personal experience, and it's what needs to be done.
Well, see, this thing, if you could tie it in with hardcore science and plasma physics and what's going on, we might have an understanding here. How is it that they can just show up and disappear? And how many times have the authentic images of them are what people call blob squatches, like this one right here. It's not a perfect image. It's like it's not in our realm. And the only reason even caught it and got a picture of it is because of the cameras that we have today. For some reason, these digital cameras can pick these things up. Not always. It's not always the case, but it's enough of the time that we actually started developing or creating archive of images. instead of just stories. I mean, I can't tell you what the hell's going on. I wish I could.
Yeah, but
But I will say this much. I think that a lot of our fear is due to ignorance. And I would say that there's overwhelming evidence that the odds of you anything bad happening to you, except for being scared shitless, is slim to none.
and just the fact that they seem to be associated, or the correlation of often the UFOs or the plasma orbs and stuff that uh, are experienced right around or along with them a lot of the times.
So, are you prepared to get your head mind blown a little bit more?
Oh yeah, let's do it.
And by the way, this one more thing. You keep on hearing the stuff about Bigfoot and Nephilim are the same thing. It's not. The story about Bigfoot is Esau and Jacob. And until you study that, and just the one character in the Bible who's hairy like a goat from head to toe is Esau. Esau was not a human being. It was a metaphorical story about how we interacted with these things in the distant past. And we end up tricking these things and deceiving these things, and we've been at war with these things. We are the hybrids, and we probably are the real aliens in all this. That's my opinion, that part. But the part that it's not my opinion is that Esau is a perfect description of a Sasquatch. But you got to read it. It's not an Nephilim. But you got to read that too. You just blindly accept what other people say is a good way to get yourself tripped up. Just saying. Then the next thing is I want to find this image. Give me a second, because
I really do need to read those.
I did a study of it, but all you have to do is it's Jacob. No, it's Genesis 25 and 27 is where you need to look at those two chapters for whatever it's worth. And let's see if I can find this one. It's going to be hard for you to accept this, but this is how bizarre this goes. It gets really bizarre. This is not Photoshop. This is from a video. I don't know where the video is right now. I can look it up. It's so desired to see it. But I want you to take a good look at this. This is filmed in the sky. This is a guy that's, I believe it's in North Carolina, and he's having these. He started filming the sky, right, and then the trails and skim trails, right, and then he started seeing this stuff. This is in the sky. Now, the odds of this being simply pareidolia are slim to none. This is the face of and the head of what we call Bigfoot. This is his nose. You can see the eyes. You can see the eye there. You can see even the retina, the white of the eye, the brow. There's the mouth, the lips. Can you see that? I'm not making it up. Tell me you see it. If you can't see it, I'll help you out again. If you guys can see that, tell me what you see.
You make it a little increase the size of the image bits.
Is that good enough, or need bigger?
Okay, now I see it.
That just manifests in the sky. Now, this is not CGI. This is not somebody's artwork. He literally filmed this in the sky. It's up to you if you want to believe it or not. But I will do whatever it takes to prove to you that I'm not lying to you. Whatever you need, a lie detector test or whatever, that thing manifested in the sky. That's how strange this whole shit is. How is it that up in the sky, these are chemtrails, so I don't know how many thousands of feet it would be. If it is at least 1,000 feet, right? It's going to be at least that. Or maybe it could be 500. We'll say it's 500 feet. Because we know that they dissipate and spread out, and then they fall on top of us, right? So, okay, let's just say whatever. We're aiming for 500 to 1,000 feet. We'll just give it that. How did that thing just materialize, and that thing just showed up perfectly, right? And by the way, it's not just a few seconds of it. I'd show you the still of it. This is This guy no longer is on the internet. He was one of the many who got taken down and banned for sharing this stuff.
Well, look, there's the kingdom in the sky, like the palace of the clouds. What are clouds? Is it like I suspect plasma, and then could it be another plasma plane, the entrance to the next realm or dimension potentially?
I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine, but I do have a hunch that plasma has a big part in all of this. I maybe they're able to conjure up the images. What if that's the possibility that they use the whoever they are, whether it's us or something or some other entity, has the ability to manipulate this plasma to give us a light show, to make us think that we're seeing something that's not there.
Definitely that possibility. Most, especially if it was in chemtrails, right? Like, could be programmable, could be doing tests, like trying out for the Project Bluebeam and putting
Yeah,
holograms.
you might be right about that. Maybe it's all just a show, right? And it's just and they're messing with us, and maybe they pay attention to what we're doing. Maybe they're able to even, if they have the skull that was it something skull technology. What do they call that again?
Yeah, the
Voice of skull or whatever.
yeah.
So what if that's what they're doing, and they're playing little games with it? That could be. I'm willing to entertain that at this point with everything I've gone through. I'm willing to entertain the fact that maybe they literally do have the technology to screw with their heads completely.
Yeah, right. Like,
make us see things. And
I don't doubt anything. Eric Hecker, I've interviewed a few times, and he's stated that he's experienced while working in Antarctica at the South Pole Station, potentially the equipment to do exactly that on a mass scale with their mass neutrino detector or something, but that it's essentially this faster than light, so like quantum entangled giant array, so you could essentially broadcast to the world or whatever. And especially when you tie into like the energy fields that surrounds us, like we were talking about at the start, that Tesla was tapping into, and that potentially the trees do, that they could be and most likely are, from what I've read and what it seems, and the claims out there, that from these satellites and then the arrays on the ground, so just blasting it up and then reflecting it down, putting these mass signals and energy waves that are packaged information of thoughts and emotions upon us, that they're imprinting into our reality and into our minds.
yeah, and this is where I brought up to you, because I know that most of my Bigfoot researchers or fellow researchers would not be able to tolerate that question, but you would. You could entertain that, the possibility.
It was
right?
actually brought up in a private discussion recently, that's by a fellow podcasters, I guess, source that they supposedly works in the government, that they're broadcasting this third frequency through like electrical frequency, and that it somehow subdues the population, prevents like riots or revolutions and stuff, keeping the people docile, and that I guess they've had to like put it on overdrive lately or something, was what I was told. Make of that what you will, but could be, and seem, not with, seems within possibility or realistically of what the hell's going on in this world.
Well, they have a tendency to spend a lot of time. Mind control is one way or the other. This is the Vatican painting called The Last Judgment. You heard about it?
Briefly, but it's been a while since I've seen it and never really taken an in-depth look at it. But now that you bring it up, I can assure, like, you probably deciphered out of it that there's a vast amount of occult knowledge written within it.
And it turns out something that kind of looks like a Bigfoot. No thanks. And the dead center of it, right here, where there's supposed to be this cave. It's a very weird looking cave, by the way. But anyways, right in the opening there, right? There's these two entities, and they have all these other spirits and beings and demigods and everything. For a monolith.
Wow!
That's what it is right there. And this feet.
That definitely looks like a couple Sasquatch.
So we're calling them Sasquatch, but what have they been calling all this time? They've been calling them like demons and the guardians of the underworld and hell and Hades, right? Dante's Inferno and all that nonsense, right? But this is, I can't remember, when was this painted? When was The Last Judgment painted? When was it painted? 1549. So when did we? I know supposedly we didn't know anything about the New World until when? About 1492. Is that what it was? About around that time. So this is 1549. So at least 50 years, 60 years, right? Since allegedly we showed up, which I don't believe any of that nonsense. Anyways, I don't know how you feel about that, but there's overwhelming evidence that we've been. Oh yeah, if you have it close to you, access, you have a plate from Ecuador, a plate of an image of a guy that's holding a severed, decapitated head of a Sasquatch. Remember that one?
Oh yes, from the Crespi collection, 100%, right? Like that one.
I guess what point I'm trying to get at, folks, if this is from the Vatican and it's in the Vatican and it's almost 500 years ago, and then you got this one, we've been interacting with these things for a long time, and the powers that be, including, I mean, I could be wrong. I still could be, missing the point here, but I think the big mouth like it's a Sasquatch, the hairy, dark skin with the funky feet. Yeah, I got a feeling at least there's a possible connection between this painting and others. And which one should I show? You got the skulls thing going on here.
So this one I love because clearly
here it is.
got
There's the plate.
Human,
we'll get back to there. So there's this plate. Yeah. See if you can expand that for us as well. I know people are wanting to know this. I want people to see that if that ain't a Sasquatch, I don't know what that head is. You can tell me when was this supposedly made? When did it?
I believe that they're pre-cataclysm, so potentially, over 12,000, but at least probably over 6,000. And they're from the indigenous population that brought them of Ecuador, that supposedly brought them out of the Cocos Caves, I believe is the place. But anyways, from some under mountain supposed hall of records deep in the jungle of Ecuador, and to this Father Crespi, who was a Catholic Jesuit priest, but was one of the rare good honest ones that built up did what many good things for the indigenous population, I guess, befriended them all, and then they rewarded him with showering him with all of these gifts from this.
Your people blew up this place. I want to apologize to you guys. Well, I'm still listening to you, man, but you guys blew up the comment section. I've never seen any. There are literally hundreds and hundreds of comments.
Yeah,
I'm just like, I can't keep up with it, so I apologize sincerely. But is there any way you can make it to find that head? Because when you look at that head, I want to know anybody from Central America that looked anything like that, and you guys can tell me who that speed might be. Maybe the Toltecs, maybe they could have been. I don't know, but we don't even know who the Toltecs are. Do you realize that? We don't even know what those people actually look like, except for some statues.
Exactly. Right. And sorry, I'm trying. My computer seems to be freezing momentarily, so bear with. But I'm trying to get it.
If you feel like it's, email me that or send me that, and I'm going to share that with some people. So we have some historical evidence that they were dealing with something like this. I think that they turned these things into monsters and put it in our psyche, that they're demons and monsters, right? I think that when you look at these underlying messages, the metaphorical, allegorical messages, you find texts like, which, by the way, I can't find anything better than the story of Esau and Jacob. Jacob is the hill grabber. He's the one who came after Esau. Jacob was fair-skinned, not hairy, and lived in tents. Wow. Esau was the great hunter, was the hairy man, that's what they called him, the man of the wild. He was hairy from his head to his toes, hairy like a goat. And when Jacob tried to deceive Esau, his mama, if you believe that, regardless of whether, just remember, it's the underlying, the message that matters, not the surface level profane message. They could decide to deceive Isaac, that's going blind, right, by having Jacob all dressed up in goat's hair. Now, if you look into what goat's hair looks like, you're going to realize, and by the way, there's a study I have of it, so it's definitely worth your listen. That will keep you from ever being fooled again about that Bigfoot and Sasquatch is anything to do with the Nephilim. Nothing to do with it. The men of renown, the ones who were judged, were men. They were giant men. Us, not Bigfoot. Sorry to get preachy about that, but it's very important stuff. So, you still around as you'd leave me. I think you might have left me. He fell off. What happened to you, bro? Maybe he had enough of my preaching. I don't blame him. But listen, I'm dead serious about what I'm saying. That hopefully he comes back, because you dropped off. There he is.
Sorry, hit the wrong button there.
That's okay, man.
So right now you got Neanderthal and the Denisovan compared to modern man, and clearly they're showing that what they've genetically mapped as Neanderthal is an elongated skulled humanoid, and what they've genetically mapped and dictated as Denisovan is a giant, because it's literally 3 times the size of a modern human. And that clearly giants and elongated aliens in those days, and that they also make up a small percentage of our own human genome, according to the modern CRISPR genetic.
I thought I heard you once bring up the notion that maybe Neanderthal man is actually Sasquatch. The possibility they could be the same.
I believe I think
they were.
Yeah, right. That there could be the missing link, in that it seems that something came in, and like we're a mix of both a bit, or like of something else and them, and maybe
There's a possibility that we're hybrids, that we're the hybrids, that we were bred out. They took whoever
exactly.
they were, whoever playing God with us. There's all sorts of stories out there, so you take your pick, but they're just stories until we know for sure. But one thing is certain: we just look at ourselves. And yeah, I know a couple. I mean, there's people out there say they don't need clothing and stuff like that, and I think there's actually in the last show you posted the one guy's talking about. I can't think of his name right now. He walks around naked all the time, which is cool. That's great. Just want to do this, but for the most part, we can't do that. We cannot do that. We cannot do anything in this environment without clothing, without shelter, without electricity or some kind of form of heat, fire. Right? We are plain skin, and we stick out like a sore thumb. We're the only thing that's on this realm of existence, this world, this planet, that has to have the things that we have: the clothing, the shelter. We don't fit in. I don't know
Yeah,
how anybody cannot see we're not the hybrids. We're not. We're the aliens.
essential like virus or mutation of the norm of the um what's the right word, the symmetry, or yeah, symmetry, I guess, of the rest of nature, and like all of life is nature, and then there's us that is of a completely different destructive nature, and that loves destroying the natural life and nature of this planet and realm, apparently.
It's like we're destined
Right?
to do that, right? Or we were designed to destroy this place. I hate to say that. I mean, let's think about this for a little bit, right? Because people say they're being real negative. I'm not trying to be negative here. We do everything that's half-assed backwards. If we talk about survival of the fittest, and for survival, right? For thriving, we do everything half-assed backwards, and we say that it's because of man's greed and it's because of money and all that. And I'm saying, that's just a tool. We were always that way. We've always been that way. As far as recorded history goes, we don't we are well, you call it a virus, and that's a great way of describing it. But I don't know what else to say, man. Tell me. I mean, everyone knows that war is stupid, but we still do it. Everyone knows that the systems we have are not practical and non-functional as far as preservation. We still everything's wrong. Everything's different. And he's like, I would do a better job. Would you do a better job if we're all designed this way? And if we're put in the same position, yeah, we would try, wouldn't we? But the thing is, the good guys, we know what happens, and we got lifetime of experience to know what happens. It's the bad guys that can rise to the top. And I'm not trying to be negative here. I'm trying to really think clearly about what the hell's going on, because the big picture is really important.
Absolutely. It's like Jeremy was documenting this huge the other night on his disclosure stream. I think it was episode 3 or 4, but just like of how the evil bad guys killed the last good president and have installed nothing but death and dictatorship and bullshit ever since, and corruption. And that
until you go further in history, you don't have to go very further, and this is reproduced. It's repeated over and over and over again. When you start, a great book to read. Another great book to read is the Rulers of the Press. It was written published in 1939, and it talks about our relationship with the press, and in the United States in particular, and mainstream media, and the 19th century. It is nothing. There's nothing but corruption and nothing but wars. We have a tendency to forget the fact that when we showed up here, what did we do? I'm half Ojibwe and some Cherokee, right? My dad was Native American. My mom was 100% Dutch, right?
nice.
RH negative, right? I suffer from RH negative disease. Believe it or not, there actually is a disease out there called RH negative disease. And what did
Right?
we
Like,
do? What did we do? We came to the
it so
Americas,
doesn't make sense.
right? And when we look at the,
Sorry.
oh yeah, go ahead. No, it's because it doesn't make any sense. It's not survival of the fittest. It's just mayhem and destruction. When we showed up here, by the way, it wasn't any better here. I hate to disappoint you, but I mean, when they showed up, what were the Incas doing at the time? They're supposedly having a massive human sacrifice.
But that's what they
1,000.
tell us, though. What's to say, though, that was just a cover up of the conquerors coming in and just genocide, massacre, slaughtering everybody, and then being like, "Oh, all those chopped off heads, they were doing it to themselves. We didn't do that." You know, who knows?
Oh, man, it's
right?
horrendous. We threw the Western Europe and the nightmare that was. Okay, first of all, you have a black plague. If it really did happen, let's just say, just play along with it, and 3/4 of the people are wiped out. And so, what do the rest of them do? Well, they started. Well, what? The Inquisition.
Yeah, the Spanish.
Anybody that rebelled anything against the Roman Empire, you know, and there's another thing. You want to one of the best ways to conquer a people is what? Poisoning the well, their minds, and a little water, and everything else. So, and then call it something like smallpox or the black
right? Absolutely.
and then anybody that's unruly, then what we do, because we're absolute crazies, we'll have torture chambers in all our castles in which we'll torture you and quarter you and do all sorts of horrendous things. And then what we'll do, even though we'll say it's a distant past, we'll keep it in all our castles. And I don't know if anybody you spend any time in Europe, but I did. And I was married to a woman that was half Portuguese and half East Timor. So it's been a lot in Portugal and Spain and France and also in England. And all these castles, they all have their freaking torture chambers and their dungeons. And they glorify it. And they charge people to see it. Now, would that, if you're a rational group of people, would that be the one thing that wouldn't you want to hide that?
Right? Yeah, no doubt. Like,
and there's something seriously wrong here. So these things that we say Sasquatch, we call them Sasquatch, or whatever was left of them, right? It sounds to me, when you look at the story of Jacob and Esau wasn't a bad guy at all. Not a bad guy at all. But it seems like we had a war against these things. Like we were like designed, created, and put here to get rid of anything that was in the way for whatever terraforming or whatever the hell they're. What do you think they are up to, anyways? Do you have any ideas? BurnEye? What are they up? You got to think like them. You have to. I know that's the thing. It's hard for a guy like you because you're a nice person. I never
really put that thought. Right? Yeah, it's like I never put much energy into the mind of or trying to understand the negative or doing evil and like thinking of like ideas of that sort of thing, right? Like it just I don't know. Like just don't really know.
Yeah, so I mean, it's something to think about, and I think the big picture. I mean, I'm the big picture type of guy, right? The details, then it's never, never would be good at being a scientist, right? But I prefer these to being an investigator, and so. But anyways, saying that, this might be something for the next time we get together, if we ever get together, is talk about that. What are we doing here, and why are we here, and why are we doing everything that we know is half-assed, backwards, and not good for us and the prosperity of ourselves, our children, and grandchildren? And it's universal, folks. It's not just United States.
Absolutely. That is a perfect discussion for our next stream, and we will definitely be doing one, Mike.
And why were we at war with these things called Sasquatch? And why did they make such a big? I mean, think about that image there, that plate, that image there.
Literally thousands of Crespi collection right there.
Right. And we were talking about the Central and South America. I mean, how many cultures, societies had beards like that? That looked
None,
like
right?
I mean,
Great points.
what African culture looks like that? I mean, it's got a big nose like a Sasquatch. It's got big lips, you know, much bigger lips than anybody who has African descent. And I'm not in any way being disrespectful. We all have our different characteristics. What is that thing? I mean, I mean, did they?
It's shocked me since the first time I've seen it, and I've been asking the same question, right? Like, glad you brought this one back up, because it's literally a golden tablet from the Crespi collection from the Teos Cave in Ecuador of some ancient warrior holding a freaking Sasquatch's head.
I like that. You know where Mike Dose just said Dose. Maybe Bigfoot is a guardian to keep us out of what? What if, you know,
Yeah,
what if this place, you know, we know they've been trying to keep us to focus above us and away from this place, right? What if this globe, this ball that we live in, is actually hollow inside, and there's something else inside? I mean, it's a speculation, it's a guess. It's
right.
not original. It's not mine. You know, it's been talking to people thinking, asking this question for hundreds and hundreds of years, but you know,
I
maybe they're
agree.
right. Maybe they're there,
I,
and you know, these UFOs are coming out of the freaking waters, out of the ocean, out of the lake rivers.
as well as
What
apparently volcanoes.
was that? Yeah, volcanoes. Absolutely. So what are we dealing with? And I think it's an important issue, and it's much more than woo woo or cryptid or this, that, or the other kind of like monsters. Just they want us to focus on the scary stuff. They want us to be entertained for a reason. It's not just, you know, to keep pacify us like little children. They're hiding something. They're clearly hiding something that's bigger than Sasquatch or UFOs. I'm sorry, but we'll have to talk about it another time when I'll put my ducks in a row and talk about that. But I hear that in your voice too, that there's something else going on. I don't know if we're on the same page or not, but it doesn't really matter. One thing is that if we do recognize there's something wrong, right? There's something wrong with this place.
Yeah, I fully agree, right? Like, I suspect, and they're definitely hiding something major. I believe that whatever the poles are, Antarctica, supposedly, whatever is there probably contains the answers of our true history, origins, and what's actually going on in this realm and outside of it, right? Or inside of it.
Yeah, it's like, you know, they made up this whole story about Dante's Inferno and hell. And we know that it's a story. It's not, there's something to verify it. Yet they have these allegorical, metaphorical stories over and over again, people going to the underworld. Whether it's the Egyptians, the Hebrews, it doesn't matter. Every culture seems to have something about the underworld. The ant people from the underworld.
Yeah.
So, and you talked about 40 miles of caves in that mountain, and it's supposed to be about mining for gold there. And what if they found something else as well?
Exactly.
I don't know. I mean, we got what do they call that? That radar that penetrates deep into the earth. I think
LiDAR.
It's not LiDAR.
The ground penetrating radar. What is?
They use satellites for this one, and they can go they claim they go as deep as 500 miles into the earth. That's as far as they have any kind of signal of anything. They claim at 500 miles. What's the rest of it? And they say it just kind of stops around there. Do you know what I'm talking about? I can't think of the name of it right now.
Yeah. And apparently it turns into like nothing or something, like a gap or a space or something, right?
Right. And then we hear all these legends of supposedly there's a sun inside the earth and all that kind of stuff. I'm not saying so, but what I'm saying, We don't.
I don't
We,
know.
the average person, 99.999.9 in the world, doesn't have any idea what's under us. A few miles, whether it's 10 or it's, we'll give them the 12 or whatever miles they say they've tunneled, and we'll give them even that whatever that radar is. You guys have it. You know what it is? And maybe somebody. It's that radar they have that they use as satellites, and they ground penetrating radar. They
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
reach like 500 miles, but that's the max.
That's it. Yeah.
So we have no idea what's beyond that point. We're just speculating, assuming that it's a big, bunch of lava, right? And an iron.
And apparently they even like claim that it like stopped spinning or like started going the other way or something recently too. Like what the heck was that even about? Like do that, like it's so ridiculous. Like, and bang on with the point that we really don't know. No one really knows. And but probably some do, and the ones that do are keeping it hidden, punishable probably by death, and from the rest of us. And that there's.
And we'll leave it at this. And I'm just going to say one thing, and then, I want you to remind anybody that's here to just know you of your channels and what you're up to. But I just want to say this: the First Nation people talk about the underworld, the middle world, and the upper world, and the tree. And the tree represents the underworld, the middle world, and the upper world. And I think we might want to think a little deeper about what that symbolically means and what's really going on. Because I think the answers are in those simple little riddles, those allegorical, metaphorical tales that they went out of their way to crush, folks. That's the very first thing to do. Now, I know you say, well, this is how empires work. And fair enough, that's how empires work. But, intelligent empire will at least hold on to the truth before they crush the rest of it, right? So why did they crush all this stuff and hide it from us?
I agree, and that's awesome wisdom, well said and shared to end this with, Mike. I look forward to our next one, and I
had a great time. You made my day. Thank you so much. You made my day, bro. I might be old enough to be your dad, but I know you made my day.
Right, I got you, brother. Appreciate it, and everybody go subscribe to the Lord of Ord. Mike, watching my channels, go over, check out all the pictures, videos, lots of them that you're sharing today. All your own images and videos that you've captured yourself. And
it's just important to do your own research, right? At some point I had to say, I'm gonna have to do this myself. I can't just rely on other people doing it for me, right? How am I ever going to know, right?
Exactly. It's the only way to go, and to lead by example, be the change that you want to see, and start with yourself, and by doing it yourself, and great stuff, and love.
And I would love to hear I hope the only thing I will hope, and I don't, and it's very rude of me and arrogant of me, but I brought up about the trees, about what they seen traveling up and down the trees, about the underworld, middle world, the upper world, about these vortexes and the energy, something's going on. And maybe your friends, you got some really intelligent friends, and maybe you can throw it by them. What's going on with these trees?
I'm good, right? Because I'm going to try to bring that up with the Hutchinson specifically, because I know that they've actually done a lot of experiments using trees as antennas and broadcasting frequencies into them for that sort of specific reasons, as you've been mentioning. So, I will do that, and we will discuss it on the next one. And then we're definitely going to have to do this again, because great work, great minds, and gotta do it. Keep doing it, man.
So before we go, so we got what are you doing next? What's coming up?
Gotta work a little bit. I've got potentially a new location with where I work, with the property owner, to be setting up my silk screening printing equipment coming up in the new year with him, and partnership with that. So hopefully that materializes. I'm pretty sure, I know it will. Working on that. Can't wait to be able to do my silk screening, printing shirts, clothing again, finally do orders, as well as partnering with a organic coffee importer and manufacturer, and also going to do a coffee podcast with them that should be pretty fun. So that's some couple things to look forward to in the new year. And then, as always, you never know what's going to come out next with the alchemy. There's just so many discoveries, so much stuff. The materials, material science aspects. Lots happening with alien scientist Jeremy Reese and the APEC team. And yeah, I encourage everyone to watch the next APEC coming up next weekend.
Yeah, let's try to get crypto alchemist above 10,000. And then also let's try to get BurnEye. The BurnEye, I know this. Mine's ScienceGuy trips by itself. Anyways, get to over 3,000. So with that, I'm going to end this with, I know it's Jack Valet, but if you listen to this very end, think about what we're talking about and make you think twice about what's going on with these UFOs. And then after you guys are still around, regardless, I'm going to play some closing music. It was great talking to you, bro.
You as well, Mike.
Utmost respect for you, man. Utmost.
Right back at you, my friend. You've added a whole new perspective of my understanding of the Sasquatch phenomenon that we're going to take in depth way more into the next one, my friend.
Yeah, there's a lot more going on than scary stories.
Exactly.
With that, much love, bro, and everyone else, and let's listen to what Jacques Vallée has to say. Right?
And we became friends after a while, and they could see that I was really, really interested in what had happened to them, because I could tell it had had a deep impact on them. They hadn't talked about to anybody, because it had, again, affected their life, their beliefs, a number of things. And I asked them to take me to that place among the forest where the thing had landed, one time. And I said, looking around, if it took off in that direction, it would have hit the trees. And they said, well, it kind of hit the trees. And it went through the trees. Well, okay, so now this isn't some sort of rocket or some sort of helicopter. A helicopter will crash if it hits a tree. I said, why didn't you tell that to the investigator who came here? They said, well, we could tell he would never believe it because he was looking for hardware. He was looking for some sort of super rocket. He was essentially had an engineering mind. We couldn't tell him that it went through the trees. But you asked a question, so we told you. So I think that's what we need to learn, and that is what bothers me with what's happening now in the US is that we're primarily going to look at the military cases. That's what Congress has mandated. The pilots are going to come up, and now, fortunately, they are giving them permission to speak about what they've seen, okay? Without stigma, without being degraded, without losing their position as pilots, If you're a pilot, you don't want to be assigned to an office somewhere. You want to keep flying, right? So you're not going to talk about UFOs, ever, okay? So when that stigma is removed, now you have another situation. But now we have to think about, and again, the Army and the Air Force is great because they have all these instruments that can measure things. They have radar, they have all of that. A farmer in his field doesn't have that. But the farmer knows his field, and he knows nature. He knows the clouds. He knows if it's going to rain tomorrow. He knows how the cows are behaving. That tells him something about what's going on. It tells you about threats. It tells you about all kinds of other things that a pilot would never know about, because a pilot is looking at a few instruments and the sky in front of him, and that's it. Okay, so we should not narrow the. What I'm afraid of is that everything will be military observations, because they are so neat. Observations from the last 5 years, because we have all this wonderful technology. The farmer doesn't have that technology. So it's going to be discounted, and it should not be discounted. We should go back to the last 50 years. And it's in the database. Now, most of those people have died. I have the privilege of having survived long enough to know all these people, and I can see people making hypotheses about the database that I can tell you are false. I can tell you it did not happen that way, because I went there. And I spoke to the people who are operating that radar, or the people who are flying that airplane back in Brazil in 1987, when there were ships, flying ships coming out of the Amazon at night, flying out of the water of the Amazon. Okay, they saw that. They have pictures of that. Okay? You're not going to get that just by doing some superficial research, as good as the research is at Harvard or Princeton or Stanford. We have to go beyond that.